The USS Enterprise D entered the Saul system at Warp 6, her hull scarred from 3 months in the Pegasus galaxy but her crew triumphant. They'd found Atlantis. They'd defeated Anubis. They'd established the Federation's first foothold in another galaxy. Admiral Ross had personally transmitted congratulations during their journey home, promising a hero's welcome. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood on the bridge, watching Earth grow larger on the view screen. Home. After everything they'd faced, the Goa'uld, the Wraith, the nightmare of being stranded 3 million light-years from Federation space, they were finally home. Standard orbit, Mr. Data, Picard ordered. Inform Starfleet Command we've arrived. Aye, Captain, Data replied from the ops station. But his fingers paused over the console, his golden eyes narrowing in a way that suggested his positronic brain had detected something unexpected. Sir, I am reading an unusual energy signature at the edge of the Sol system, approximately 4.8 billion kilometers from our current position. On screen, Picard said, the tension in his voice immediate. 3 months in Pegasus had taught him that unusual energy signatures were rarely good news. The view screen shifted, showing the outer system near the Kuiper Belt. At first, Picard saw nothing. Then Data enhanced the image, and a chill ran down his spine. A ship. No, not a ship. A structure. Geometric, composed of millions of interlocking blocks that seemed to shift and reconfigure constantly. The hull wasn't metal or any conventional material, it looked crystalline. Insectoid, wrong in a way that made Picard's tactical instincts scream warnings. That's a replicator vessel, Commander Riker said quietly, his face pale. Just like the one we encountered at Bethesda. Picard remembered, during the battle to save Bethesda from Anubis, a replicator ship had appeared, an unexpected third party in an already chaotic conflict. Commander Thor had destroyed it using an ancient weapon, but not before it had consumed the USS Melbourne in less than 3 minutes. How long has it been there? Picard demanded. Data worked his console, pulling up sensor logs from the automated monitoring stations in the outer system. Based on quantum decay signatures, the vessel arrived approximately 87 days ago. It has been dormant, motionless, simply observing. Observing what? Counselor Tri asked, though her empathic senses already knew the answer. Us, Picard said. It followed us home, through the wormhole from Pegasus. It's been watching, learning, waiting. The replicator ship moved, not the slow, ponderous movement of a conventional vessel engaging engines. It simply accelerated from stationary to 0.4 c in less than a second, breaking every law of inertia and momentum that should have torn the ship apart. Red alert, Picard shouted. All hands to battle stations. Shields up, weapons hot. The klaxons blared. The bridge lighting shifted to crimson. And on the view screen, the replicator ship grew larger with terrifying speed as it burned toward the inner system at relativistic velocities. Time to intercept? Riker demanded. At current speed, they will reach Earth in 7 minutes. Data reported. Captain, we cannot intercept. They are moving too fast, and our position. The replicator ship stopped. Instantly. No deceleration burn, no gravitational braking. It simply halted its momentum 200,000 kilometers from Earth. Physics screaming in protest at the impossibility. What are they doing? Picard asked. Data's console lit up with contacts. Hundreds of them. Thousands. Captain, the vessel is releasing replicator blocks. Small constructs, approximately 1 meter cubed. They are dispersing throughout the Sol system. His fingers flew across the console, tracking the spreading contacts. Targets include Earth orbit, Luna, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moons. They are seeding the entire system. Starfleet Command is hailing, Worf reported from Tactical. Admiral Ross is ordering all available vessels to intercept the replicator dispersal. Fleet formation Delta 7. Picard's mind raced through tactical options. The replicators at Bethesda had proven resistant to energy weapons, phasers, and disruptors merely slowed them down. They consumed matter at a molecular level, using destroyed ships and stations to replicate more of themselves. Every piece of technology they touched became material for their expansion. Inform Admiral Ross, we're engaging, Picard decided. But warn him, conventional weapons may not be effective. The replicators adapt to energy-based attacks. We need... Captain, the USS Saratoga is engaging the nearest replicator cluster. Data interrupted. Distance, 50,000 kilometers from our position. On the view screen, the Galaxy-class starship, USS Saratoga, identical to the Enterprise in design, opened fire with full phaser arrays. Orange beams lanced across space, striking a cluster of approximately 300 replicator blocks that had begun assembling themselves into a larger construct. The phasers vaporized dozens of blocks, but the survivors simply absorbed the energy, using it to accelerate their replication. Where 300 blocks had existed, suddenly there were 400, then 500. "They're using our weapons against us," Geordi LaForge's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Captain, every shot we fire gives them more energy to replicate. We're feeding them." The replicators swarm, enveloped the Saratoga, not attacking with weapons, but simply landing on the hull by the thousands, and where they touched, the ship began to disintegrate. Ablative armor converted to raw material. Hull plating consumed and restructured. The Saratoga's shields held for 40 seconds before failing, and then the replicators poured into the ship's interior. "They're beaming out crew," Data reported. "Emergency transports to nearby vessels. But Captain, the Saratoga is lost." Picard watched in horror as the massive starship, 750 meters long, 4.5 million metric tons, was consumed in less than 4 minutes. The replicators didn't destroy it. They disassembled it at a molecular level, converting every atom into more of themselves. Where the Saratoga had been now floated a swarm of replicator blocks, 10 times the original number. "All ships cease fire." Admiral Ross's voice cut through every frequency. "I repeat, cease fire. Energy weapons are ineffective. All vessels fall back to defensive positions around Earth." But the replicators weren't done. The swarm that had consumed the Saratoga began to coalesce, millions of blocks interlocking with geometric precision. They were building something, a structure that grew larger with each passing second, fed by the matter of a destroyed Federation starship and the 700 souls who hadn't escaped in time. "What are they constructing?" Riker asked, his voice tight. Data enhanced the image. The structure was taking shape, a massive sphere, kilometer wide, covered in the same crystalline blocks as the original replicator vessel. But this wasn't a ship. The internal configuration suggested something else. "It appears to be a processing station," Data said, "designed to consume matter and convert it into replicator units at an accelerated rate. Captain, at current replication speed, this single station could convert Earth's entire mass into replicators in approximately 4." The bridge went silent. 47 days until Earth ceased to exist as a planet and became a swarm of mechanical organisms designed solely to consume and replicate. "Recommendations?" Picard asked, forcing his voice to remain calm despite the existential horror they faced. "We need Commander Thor," Worf said. "The Asgard defeated replicators before. They have weapons specifically designed to counter them." "Contact the Asgard immediately," Picard ordered. "Emergency channels." "Tell them." "Captain," Troy interrupted, her empathic senses detecting something that made her skin crawl. "The replicators aren't just building, they're communicating. I can feel intention, purpose. They're not mindless. They're coordinating. And She struggled to find words for what her betazoid telepathy was picking up from the mechanical minds. "They're hungry." On the view screen, more replicator clusters throughout the Saul system began building their own processing stations. 1 on Luna, 2 in the asteroid belt, 3 on Mars. The swarm was establishing infrastructure, preparing for the systematic consumption of everything humanity held dear. And then Data's console erupted with a new contact. "Captain, detecting hyperspace window opening," Data reported. "Configuration consistent with Asgard technology. A vessel is emerging." Hope flared in Picard's chest. The Asgard had come. Thor must have detected the replicator presence, and the vessel that emerged from hyperspace was wrong. The hull was Asgard in design, sleek, teardrop-shaped, covered in that distinctive gray-silver alloy. But sections of it were corrupted. Crystalline replicator blocks had infested the ship's exterior, spreading across the hull like a cancer. "That's Thor's ship," Riker breathed. "The Bilskirnir, but it's been compromised." A transmission came through. Not Asgard communication, but something else. A voice synthesized from 1,000 overlapping tones, mechanical yet somehow alive. "We are Replicator. We have consumed the Asgard collective. Their technology is now ours. Their knowledge is now ours. Earth will be consumed. Resistance is futile. You will be processed. The transmission cut off. Thor's corrupted ship turned toward Earth and accelerated. Picard stood from his chair, every instinct screaming that they'd just lost this war before it had truly begun. The Replicators had defeated the Asgard, the most advanced civilization the Federation had ever encountered. If the Asgard couldn't stop them, what chance did Starfleet have? All ships. Picard transmitted on fleet-wide channels. This is Captain Picard. The Asgard have fallen. We are facing an enemy that has consumed civilizations more advanced than our own. But we are human. We adapt. We survive. We will find a way to win this. Enterprise out. He turned to his crew, the people he'd trusted with his life for 7 years, the finest officers in Starfleet. We don't have Thor's weapons. We don't have Asgard technology. But we have something the Replicators don't. We're willing to die to protect what we love. That makes us dangerous. Find me a weakness. Find me a way to kill these things. Because if we don't, he didn't need to finish. Everyone understood. Earth hung on the view screen, beautiful and blue and doomed. Humanity's homeworld, the birthplace of the Federation. 9 billion souls unaware that their planet had just become ground zero for an extinction-level threat, and approaching from the outer system, billions of replicator blocks converged on their target, hungry and patient and utterly unstoppable. The war for Earth, for humanity's survival, had begun. Stargate Command, Cheyenne Mountain. Colonel Jack O'Neill hated paperwork. Hated it with a passion that surpassed his dislike of almost everything else in the galaxy, including Go Old, Bad Coffee, and Daniel Jackson's lengthy historical lectures. So when the klaxons started blaring in the middle of his post-mission report, Jack felt a surge of relief that was probably inappropriate given the circumstances. Unscheduled off-world activation. The announcement echoed through SGC's corridors. Jack dropped his pen finally, a good excuse to abandon the report, and ran for the gate room. SG-1 had just returned from P3X-77-4 3 hours ago. Routine mission, no hostile contact. Daniel had found some interesting pottery or whatever. Standard Tuesday at the SGC. This wasn't standard. Jack burst into the control room to find General Hammond already there, along with Major Samantha Carter and Daniel Jackson. Teal'c was presumably in his quarters. The big guy needed meditation time after missions. "What we got?" Jack demanded. "Incoming wormhole," Carter replied, her eyes fixed on the sensor readings. "But sir, the point of origin isn't from our gate network. This is coming from outside the Milky Way galaxy entirely. The energy signature it's Asgard." "Thor?" Jack asked, hope and concern mixing. The Asgard were allies, humanity's most powerful allies, but they rarely contacted the SGC unless something had gone catastrophically wrong. Get him on the horn. The wormhole stabilized. The event horizon rippled with that familiar blue shimmer, and through it staggered a figure that made everyone in the control room go silent. Commander Thor materialized via Asgard transport beam, not walking through the gate, but beaming directly from his ship to the gate room. Except Thor looked wrong. His gray skin was charred in places. His large black eyes were flickering like a dying light bulb, and his small body was shaking with what Jack recognized as the Asgard equivalent of mortal injury. "Medical team to the gate room now," Hammond barked into the comm. Jack was already running down the stairs, reaching Thor just as the small alien collapsed. "Thor, what happened? Who did this?" Thor's voice was weak, distorted by failing systems. "O'Neill, they followed you. The Replicators. We tried to stop them. We failed." Jack's blood ran cold. The Replicators. He'd encountered them twice before, once in the Asgard home galaxy, once during a nightmare scenario involving alternate realities. They were mechanical organisms designed by the ancients as weapons, except they'd evolved beyond their programming, becoming a threat that even the Asgard, with all their superior technology, couldn't eliminate. "Where are they?" Jack demanded. "Thor, where are the Replicators?" "Coming to Earth," Thor managed, his voice glitching. "They detected quantum signatures, wormhole travel, your alliance with Federation. They followed the trail. O'Neill, you must understand." Thor's eyes flickered, fighting to stay conscious. 2 Earths. 2 timelines. Divergent quantum realities connected through Stargate network. The replicators will attack both. Carter had followed Jack down to the gate room. 2 Earths? Commander Thor, what do you mean 2 Earths? The Federation, Thor said, his voice barely a whisper now. Future Earth. 3/6 years forward. Different timeline. When you connected through wormhole to Pegasus, you bridged quantum realities. Replicators detected both. They will consume both. Simultaneously, Daniel Jackson joined them, his linguistic expertise trying to parse Thor's dying words. Thor, are you saying there's another Earth? Another version of us in the future? United Federation of Planets. Thor confirmed. Warp drive. Not Stargate. Divergent evolution. But both. Human. Both. Targets. O'Neill. Thor's hand reached out, grasped Jack's uniform with surprising strength. Asgard are finished. Home galaxy consumed. We tried to stop them. Trigger self-destruct. Entire race. Gone. Better death than becoming replicator database. Jack felt like he'd been punched in the gut. The Asgard, millions of them, an entire civilization spanning multiple galaxies, had committed mass suicide rather than let the replicators take their knowledge. Thor. No, Jack said, his voice breaking. There's gotta be a way to— Legacy, Thor interrupted. Left you. Asgard core. Coordinates. Uploading to your systems. All knowledge. All technology. Humanity inherits. But O'Neill, warn the Federation. Warn the other Earth. Replicators coming. Hours. Maybe minutes. Must coordinate. Must work together. 2 Earths, 1 enemy. Thor's eyes went dark, his body went still, and one of Jack O'Neill's few true friends in the universe died in his arms in an underground bunker in Colorado. Get him to medical anyway, Jack said quietly, though he knew it was futile. Asgard didn't have traditional biology. Thor's consciousness was digital, and the organic clone body was just a shell. When that consciousness died, there was no bringing it back.
Hammond placed a hand on Jack's shoulder. Colonel, what did he mean? 2 Earths?
Jack stood, his grief transforming into the cold, tactical focus that had kept him alive through 2 decades of Black Ops and Stargate missions. General, we need to reach out to this Federation. If Thor was right, if there's another version of Earth out there, 368 years in the future, then they're about to get hit by the same thing we are. And if the replicators took out the Asgard, he didn't finish. Everyone understood. How do we contact them? Carter asked. If they're in a different timeline, our communication systems— The Stargate, Daniel said suddenly. Thor said we bridged quantum realities through the gate network. Maybe we can dial them, send a message forward in time. That's not how gates work, Carter protested. You can't dial into the future. The wormhole connects 2 points in space, not time. Usually, Daniel countered. But what if the quantum divergence means there's a gate address that exists in their timeline but not ours? Thor mentioned coordinates uploading to our systems. Maybe those coordinates include a way to reach the Federation. Hammond turned to the technicians in the control room. Check it. If Commander Thor uploaded data to our systems, I want it analyzed immediately. Find me a way to contact this Federation. An alarm blared. Different from the gate activation warning, this was the base's proximity alert. General Hammond, the comm crackled. Long-range radar has detected multiple contacts entering Earth's atmosphere. Approximately 300 objects, small size, unknown origin. They're not meteors. The trajectory indicates deliberate entry, ETA to impact 4 minutes. Jack's hand went to his sidearm instinctively. It's them, the replicators. They're here. The gate room's main monitor switched to a satellite feed. Jack watched as hundreds of small objects streaked through Earth's atmosphere, trailing fire like falling stars. Except they weren't falling randomly. They were targeting specific locations across the continental United States. One of them was heading straight for Cheyenne Mountain. Seal the mountain, Hammond ordered. All personnel to defensive positions. Colonel O'Neill, get SG-1 equipped. If those things breach the facility, you're our first line of defense. Jack ran for the armory, Carter and Daniel following. They found Teal'c already there, his staff weapon in hand, his expression grim. I have heard the alarms, O'Neill, Teal'c said. What enemy approaches? Replicators, Jack replied, grabbing his P-90 and as much ammunition as he could carry. Mechanical bugs. Damn near indestructible. They consume technology and replicate themselves. If even one gets access to the gate, an explosion rocked the mountain. Not a bomb. Something worse. The sound of metal being torn apart at a fundamental level, of molecular bonds breaking down, of matter being consumed. They're inside the mountain, Carter said, her scientific mind already analyzing what that meant. Sir, if they reach the gate room, they get access to the entire gate network, Jack finished. Thousands of worlds, billions of potential victims. We hold them here, whatever it takes. The 4 members of SG-1 moved through SGC's corridors, with practiced efficiency, weapons ready, heading toward the breach. Other teams joined them, SG-3, SG-5, Marines stationed at the facility. 60 combat-trained personnel forming a defensive line. They reached level 18 near the surface entrance and found hell, replicators. Hundreds of them, each one the size of a large spider, made of interlocking mechanical blocks that shifted and reconfigured constantly. They crawled across walls, ceilings, floors with insect-like movements, and where they crawled, they consumed. Light fixtures, computer terminals, pipes, wiring, everything became material for more replicators. Open fire, Jack shouted. The corridor erupted with gunfire. P-90s, assault rifles, Tilak staff weapon, all hammering the replicator swarm. Bullets struck the mechanical organisms, and some shattered under the kinetic impact, but others simply absorbed the damage, reconfigured their blocks to compensate, kept advancing. They're adapting, Carter yelled over the weapons fire. Developing armor, we need. A replicator leaped from the wall onto a Marine's back. Its legs dug into the man's body armor, and he screamed, not in pain but in horror, as the armor began to disintegrate, being consumed to create more replicators. His teammates pulled him back, tore the organism off him, but the damage was done. His back armor was gone, and 3 more replicators had spawned from the consumed material. Fall back, Jack ordered, fighting positions at the blast doors. We let them come to us. SG-1 and the defense teams retreated to a reinforced checkpoint, blast doors that could seal off sections of the base. They set up a defensive perimeter, weapons trained on the corridor where the replicator swarm advanced like a mechanical tie. Hammond, we can't hold them, Jack said into his radio. These things adapt too fast. We need ancient weapons, Daniel interrupted, his archaeological knowledge suddenly relevant. The ancient outpost in Antarctica. It has drones that can fight replicators. We've used them before. Jack remembered. The Antarctic outpost contained ancient weapons, self-guided projectiles that could track targets with perfect accuracy. They'd saved Earth from Anubis's fleet. Maybe they could save it again. General Hammond, we need to activate the Antarctic outpost, Jack transmitted. It's the only thing that might stop them. Negative, Colonel. Hammond's voice came back. Frustration evident. The outpost's 0-point module is nearly depleted. We might have enough power for one defense either here or somewhere else. If we use it now, we're defenseless if the replicators hit another location. Jack watched the replicator swarm advance, getting closer. General, if they take SGC, they take the gate. That can't happen. A pause. Then, understood. Activating the Antarctic outpost. O'Neill, buy us 3 minutes. That's how long it takes to power up the weapon system. 3 minutes, Jack repeated. Piece of cake. It was the longest 3 minutes of Jack O'Neill's life. The replicators hit the blast doors with physical force, trying to tear through the reinforced metal. When that failed, they began consuming it, disassembling the doors at a molecular level. The Marines fired continuously, their ammunition depleting rapidly. Tealake's staff weapon carved holes through the swarm, but more kept coming. 2 minutes, Carter said, checking her watch. A replicator got through. Then 3, then a dozen. Hand-to-hand combat in an underground bunker against mechanical organisms that could kill you, just by touching you. Jack used his P-90 like a club, smashing replicators against walls, stomping them when they fell. It was brutal, desperate, primal. 1 minute, they were losing. The replicators were through the blast doors now, spreading throughout the level. Jack could see them on security monitors, flooding corridors, consuming everything in their path. In 60 seconds, they'd reached the gate room, and then the mountains shook. Not an explosion, not an earthquake. Something else. A high-pitched frequency that made Jack's teeth ache, made the replicators freeze mid-motion. From Antarctica, 1,800 miles away, ancient drones screamed through the sky at supersonic speeds, guided by the same artificial intelligence that had protected Earth for millions of years. They phased through the mountains, rock and metal struck every replicator inside the facility with surgical precision. The mechanical organisms simply stopped. Their blocks separated, fell apart, became inert pieces of metal and circuitry. The swarm died in seconds, eliminated by technology so advanced it treated solid matter like air. "Stand down," Hammond's voice came over the comm. The Antarctic outpost reports successful elimination of replicator presence in SGC. All teams, secure the facility and begin damage assessment. Jack leaned against the wall, breathing hard, his body shaking from adrenaline crash. They'd won, barely. But they'd won. "Sir," Carter said, approaching with a tablet. "I've been analyzing the data Commander Thor uploaded. He was right. There's a gate address that shouldn't exist in our network. It's a coordinate system that accounts for quantum timeline divergence. If we dial this address, we might be able to establish contact with the Federation. With the other Earth." "Do it," Jack ordered. "We need to warn them. If the replicators hit them as hard as they hit us." "Sir," Daniel interrupted, pointing at the tablet's display, "there's something else in Thor's data. A message. For you specifically." Jack read the Asgard text that Carter had translated. "O'Neill, if you are reading this, the Asgard are dead, and you are humanity's last hope. The replicators will not stop with one Earth. They will not stop with one galaxy. They will consume everything unless you stop them. I have left you our legacy. All Asgard knowledge encoded in a data core hidden at coordinates included in this transmission. Use it. Save your world. Save the Federation's world. Save them both. You are the fifth race, O'Neill. Prove us right. Prove you are worthy of the legacy we leave. Thor." Jack stared at the message, feeling the weight of an entire civilization's hopes resting on his shoulders. The Asgard, who'd been exploring the galaxy when humans were still living in caves, had just passed their torch to a species that had only learned to use Stargate 6 years ago. "General Hammond," Jack said into his radio, his voice steady despite everything, "we need to dial the Federation. Now. Because we've got about 5 minutes before the replicators regroup and hit us again. And next time we might not have ancient drones to save us." The fate of 2 Earths, 2 entire timelines now depended on whether a message could cross 368 years and warn a Federation that didn't even know SGC existed. Time was running out. Enterprise D, Earth orbit. The replicator vessel had been orbiting Earth for 3 hours, and Starfleet Command was paralyzed by indecision. Captain Picard stood in his ready room, listening to Admiral Ross make excuses through the view screen. Behind Ross, other admirals argued in the background, voices raised, panic evident, the kind of bureaucratic chaos that got people killed. "Captain, the Federation Council is demanding we avoid provocation," Ross said, his frustration barely concealed. "The replicators haven't attacked yet. Some council members believe we can negotiate." "Admiral, with respect, you cannot negotiate with a force designed solely to consume and replicate," Picard interrupted, his voice harder than he'd intended. "The replicators are not a species. They're not even truly alive. They're a machine plague, and every second we wait gives them time to establish infrastructure." "The Council has voted to send a diplomatic envoy," Ross said. "Ambassador T'Pel is en route to attempt first contact with—" "Sir, we tried that at Bataise," Commander Riker interjected from beside Picard. "The replicators don't respond to hails. They don't have demands. They just consume." Ross looked like a man drowning in political pressure. "Captain, my hands are tied. The Council won't authorize military action until we've exhausted diplomatic options. Give the ambassador 12 hours to—" "We don't have 12 hours, Picard said flatly. "Admiral, I'm requesting permission to engage the replicator vessel immediately. If you can't give that order, I'll do it on my own authority." Ross's expression shifted, something between relief and concern. "Captain, if you engage without Council authorization, you'll face a court-martial. Your career will be over." "Then I'll face court-martial," Picard replied. But I won't stand by while Earth is consumed because politicians can't make hard decisions. Sir, you know I'm right. You know what needs to be done. Give me the order. A long pause. Behind Ross, the arguing admirals continued their debate, oblivious to the reality bearing down on them. Do what you think is right, Captain, Ross said quietly. I'll deal with the council. Ross out. The transmission ended. Picard stood alone in his ready room for a moment, understanding that he'd just ended his Starfleet career. Court-martial was inevitable. But some things mattered more than rank. He returned to the bridge. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. Mr. Worf. Target the Replicator vessel. Full weapons. Prepare to fire on my mark. Captain, data said from Ops. I am detecting increased activity within the Replicator vessel. They appear to be. The ship exploded. Not a weapons detonation but a controlled dispersal. The massive crystalline structure broke apart into millions of individual blocks, each one separating and accelerating in different directions. The swarm scattered across the Saul system with coordinated precision, some heading for Earth, others for Luna, Mars, the asteroid belt, Jupiter's moon. My God, Tri breathed. They're seeding the entire system. Data's fingers flew across his console, tracking thousands of contacts simultaneously. Captain, I am reading 4,327 separate replicator clusters, each containing between 50 and 500 individual units. They are targeting every significant mass of matter in the Sol system. This is not an attack. This is systematic colonization. On the view screen, the nearest cluster approached Earth. 200 replicator blocks moving in perfect formation, descending toward the planet's surface. Where are they landing? Picard demanded. San Francisco, data reported. Specifically, Starfleet headquarters. Additional clusters targeting major population centers. Tokyo, London, Moscow, São Paulo. Captain, they are selecting locations with high concentrations of technology. Starfleet headquarters, where 50,000 personnel worked, where the Federation Council was currently debating diplomatic options, where Ambassador T'Pel was probably preparing her futile first contact mission. Get me Starfleet Command, Picard ordered. Warn them to evacuate immediately. All personnel to transporter sites. But it was too late. The replicator cluster hit Starfleet headquarters at 400 kilometers per hour, punching through the building's shields like they weren't there. The blocks scattered on impact, each one immediately beginning to consume everything around it. Walls, computers, furniture, people. On the view screen, Picard watched in horror as the familiar architecture of Starfleet headquarters began to dissolve, not explode, dissolve. The building was being disassembled at a molecular level, converted into raw material for replicator reproduction. And where 200 blocks had landed, now there were 400. Exponential growth. The nightmare scenario the Asgard had warned about. Emergency transport, Picard shouted. Beam out every life sign you can lock onto. Now, the Enterprise's transporters worked at maximum capacity, pulling people out of the dying building. But the replicators were faster. For every person beamed out, 3 more were consumed, not killed outright but absorbed. Their organic matter processed along with everything else, reducing human beings to their component atoms. We're saving maybe 40%, Geordi reported from engineering, his voice breaking. Captain, the rest, there's nothing left to beam out. The replicators are converting them before we can get a lock. 30,000 people dead in the first 5 minutes. Starfleet headquarters, the symbol of Federation ideals, the seed of humanity's greatest achievement, was gone, replaced by a growing swarm of replicator blocks that was already spreading to surrounding buildings. Captain, the USS Saratoga is engaging the orbital replicator clusters, Worf reported. They are using phasers. No, Picard shouted. Tell them to cease fire. Energy weapons feed the replicators. But it was too late for the Saratoga. The Galaxy-class starship, 750 meters of advanced technology, home to 1,012 crew members, opened fire on a replicator cluster with full phaser arrays. The orange beams struck the mechanical organisms, and for a moment it looked like they were winning. Dozens of replicators shattered under the phaser fire. Then the survivors absorbed the energy, used it, and replicated faster. The cluster that had numbered 300 blocks suddenly numbered 600. Then 1,200. They swarmed the Saratoga, landing on the hull, and where they touched, The ship began to dissolve. Ablative armor consumed in seconds. Hull plating disassembled. The Saratoga's shields held for exactly 47 seconds before the replicators found a way through, adapting to the shield frequency, phasing through the barrier, penetrating the ship's interior. They're beaming out the crew, Data reported. Emergency transports to the Enterprise and other nearby vessels. But Captain, the Saratoga is lost. Picard watched a Federation starship die. Not in glorious battle, not defending some noble principle, but simply consumed like food. The replicators tore it apart piece by piece, converting 4.5 million metric tons of matter into more of themselves. Where the Saratoga had been, now floated a swarm of replicator blocks, 20 times the original number.
All ships.
Cease fire. Admiral Ross's voice cut through every frequency. This is Ross to all Starfleet vessels. Energy weapons are ineffective. Fall back to defensive positions. Repeat, fall back and await further orders. But the replicators weren't waiting. Across the Saul system, each seeded cluster began building. Not ships. Something else. Massive geometric structures assembled from consumed matter, each one growing to kilometer scale within minutes. What are they constructing? Riker demanded. Data enhanced the sensor image of the nearest structure, the one growing where the Saratoga used to be. It appears to be a matter conversion facility, a processing station designed to consume raw material and produce replicators at accelerated rates. Captain, at current replication speed, this single station could convert Earth's entire mass into replicators in approximately 4. The bridge went silent. 47 days. Less than 2 months until Earth, with its 9 billion inhabitants, its oceans and forests and cities, its 4.5 billion year history ceased to exist, and became a swarm of mechanical organisms. How many of these stations are they building? Picard asked, though he dreaded the answer. I am detecting 73 construction sites across the Saul system, Data replied. If all reach completion, Earth's conversion time decreases to 18 hours. Less than a day. Picard had faced Borg cubes, Romulan warbirds, even Q's cosmic games. But this was different. This was mathematics. Cold, simple, inevitable mathematics. Counselor Troy, Picard said quietly, can you sense anything from the replicators? Any emotion, any consciousness we might appeal to? Troy's face was pale, her empathic senses overwhelmed by what she was detecting. Captain, they're not just machines. There's intelligence, purpose, but it's alien. Completely alien. They don't hate us. They don't fear us. We're just matter, resources to be converted. The same way we might view a tree valuable for what it can be transformed into, but not inherently meaningful. So we can't reason with them, Riker concluded. They're not interested in reason, Troy said. Only efficiency. They've calculated the most effective way to consume the Saul system, and they're executing that plan. Everything else is irrelevant to them. Picard turned back to the view screen, watching the replicator processing stations continue their terrible construction. In the background, Earth hung like a blue jewel. Beautiful, fragile, doomed. Admiral Ross is hailing, Worf announced. Ross's face appeared on the screen, and he looked like he'd aged a decade in the past hour. Captain Picard, the Federation Council has issued emergency war powers. You have full authorization to engage the replicators by any means necessary. I'm putting you in command of the Saul Defense Fleet. Every available ship in the system is now under your authority. How many ships? Picard asked. 43 vessels, Ross replied. Everything from Galaxy class to Miranda class. It's all we have. Captain, I don't know if it's enough. The replicators have consumed the Saratoga and are building structures that our science teams don't fully understand. We need options. Picard looked at his crew, at Data processing tactical data with android efficiency, at Worf calculating firing solutions, at Geordi analyzing the replicator technology, at Troy sensing the alien intelligence behind the swarm. These were the finest officers in Starfleet. If anyone could find a way to win this impossible war, it was them. Admiral, we're going to need help, Picard said. The Asgard are our best chance. They've fought replicators before. Can we contact Commander Thor? Ross's expression darkened. Captain, we've been trying to reach the Asgard for the past 2 hours. No response. Either they're not answering or they're already dead, Picard finished. The thought chilled him. If the civilization that created transporters and energy weapons beyond Federation comprehension couldn't stop the replicators, what hope did humanity have? There's something else, Ross said. We've been receiving a strange subspace signal, not from the replicators, from somewhere else. It's a message, encoded in a format our computers don't recognize. But Captain, the message is addressed to you. Specifically, by name. Source? Picard asked. Unknown, Ross admitted. The signal seems to be phasing through multiple quantum realities, like it's coming from another timeline entirely. Our science teams think it might be related to the wormhole you used to reach Pegasus. Captain, I'm forwarding the message to the Enterprise. If it contains information about the replicators, we need to know. The transmission ended. Data immediately pulled up the mysterious message on his console, his positronic brain analyzing the alien encoding. Captain, this is fascinating, Data said, his android curiosity evident. The message is encoded using a combination of ancient and Asgard communication protocols. Whoever sent this has access to technology from both civilizations. And sir, there's a text component. I am translating now. The text appeared on the view screen. Captain Picard, this is Colonel Jack O'Neill, Stargate Command, Earth. You don't know us, but we know you. Thor told us about the Federation before he died. The replicators hit our Earth 3 hours ago. We're fighting them in 2002. You're fighting them in 2070. Same enemy, different timelines. We need to coordinate. They're attacking both Earths simultaneously. If either falls, the other follows. We have ancient weapons that work against replicators. You have Federation technology. Together we might survive. Respond on this frequency. Time is running out. O'Neill out. Picard read the message twice, his mind racing through the implications. Another Earth. Another version of humanity. 38 years in the past, fighting the same enemy, and they had ancient weapons, the same technology that had saved them at Atlantis. Mr. Data, can we respond? Picard asked. Affirmative, Data replied. The message includes communication protocols. I can establish a subspace link across the quantum divergence. However, the bandwidth will be limited. Audio only, no visual. Do it, Picard ordered, and patch it through to Admiral Ross. If we're coordinating with another Earth, Starfleet needs to know. Data worked his console, his fingers moving with superhuman speed. Link established. Captain, you're connected to Stargate Command. The temporal lag is minimal, approximately 0.3 seconds due to quantum phase variance. Picard stood, straightening his uniform. He was about to make first contact with another version of humanity, another Earth, that had taken a different path, developed different technology, but faced the same extinction-level threat. This is Captain Jean-Luc Picard of the Federation Starship Enterprise. Picard transmitted. Colonel O'Neill, we received your message. Commander Thor warned you about the Federation before he died. The response came after a brief delay, a man's voice carrying dry humor that seemed inappropriate given the circumstances. Yeah, well, Thor had a flair for the dramatic. Captain, we don't have time for pleasantries. My Earth is under siege by replicators. Your Earth is under siege by replicators. We're both about to lose unless we coordinate. Tell me what you're facing. Picard summarized quickly: the replicator vessel, the seeded clusters, the processing stations, the loss of the Saratoga and Starfleet headquarters. 30,000 dead. 73 conversion facilities being built across the Saul system. O'Neill's voice came back, grimmer. We've got about 300 replicator landing sites across North America. They hit Cheyenne Mountain, where Stargate Command is located, but we held them off using ancient weapons from Antarctica. Problem is, those weapons are nearly depleted. One more major attack and we're defenseless. Captain Thor said you reached Atlantis. Did you find anything there? Weapons. Technology. Anything that might help. We found the city, Picard confirmed. But we depleted its power source fighting Anubis. The ancient weapons platforms are offline. Colonel, we may have Federation technology, but the replicators adapt to energy weapons. Every shot we fire makes them stronger. Yeah, we figured that out too, O'Neill replied. Kinetic weapons work better. Bullets, missiles, anything that hits them physically. But they adapt to that too. Captain, we're running out of options on both Earths. We need something neither of us have tried. A weapon the replicators can't adapt to. Picard looked at Data, who was already analyzing the problem with android efficiency. Colonel, we may have a solution. The Asgard developed anti-replicator weapons. If we can access Asgard technology— Way ahead of you, O'Neill interrupted. Thor left us coordinates before he died. Something called the Asgard core supposed to contain all their knowledge. We're sending a team to retrieve it now. But Captain, here's the thing. Thor said the Asgard are extinct. Mass suicide. They killed themselves rather than let the replicators take their knowledge. Which means whatever weapon they developed, it's our last shot. We get one chance. And it needs to work on both our Earths simultaneously. The weight of that settled on Picard like a physical burden. One weapon, one chance. 2 Earths depending on success. Then we'd better make it count, Picard said. Colonel O'Neill, the Federation is committing every resource to this fight. We'll find the Asgard weapon. We'll coordinate with your teams. And we'll save both our Earths. You have my word. Good, O'Neill replied. Because, Captain, if we fail, there won't be a Federation. There won't be a Stargate command. There won't be any humans left anywhere. The replicators will consume everything. So let's not fail. O'Neill out. The transmission ended. Picard stood on his bridge, looking at his crew, at the planet below, at the replicator processing stations that grew larger with every passing minute. 47 days. That's how long Earth had left. Maybe less. But now they had allies. Another Earth. Another version of humanity, fighting the same war across 368 years of temporal separation. 2 Earths, 1 enemy, one last desperate hope. Mr. Data, Picard said, his voice carrying command authority that brooked no argument. Analyze everything we know about the replicators. Find me their weakness. Find me a way to kill these things. Because in 47 days, Earth dies. And I refused to let that happen. The war had begun, and humanity across 2 timelines was losing. Stargate Command. Colonel Jack O'Neill stood in SGC's briefing room, staring at a map of North America that was covered in red dots. Each dot represented a replicator landing site. There were 200. We're losing, General Hammond said quietly, standing beside Jack. The ancient weapons from Antarctica bought us 3 hours, but the replicators are adapting. They're spreading faster than we can contain them. Jack looked at his team, Sam Carter exhausted from 48 hours without sleep, Daniel Jackson nursing burns from a close encounter with replicators, Tiak standing silent, but carrying injuries that would have killed a human. They'd been fighting non-stop since the replicators landed, and they were running on fumes. Thor's coordinates, Jack said. The Asgard core. That's our Hail Mary. Sam, how long until we can retrieve it? Carter pulled up a star chart on the briefing room monitor. The coordinates lead to a planet called Orilla, the Asgard homeworld, or what used to be their homeworld. Sir, according to Thor's data, the Asgard triggered a mass extinction event when the replicators breached their last defenses. They released a self-destruct pulse that destroyed every Asgard ship, every cloning facility, every piece of their civilization. But they preserved their knowledge in the core and hid it on Orilla before the pulse went off. How do we get there? Hammond asked. The gate address Thor provided. Can we dial it? Yes, sir, Carter confirmed. But there's a problem. Orilla is in the Ida galaxy, the Asgard home galaxy. It's millions of light years away. Even with a Stargate, the power requirements are enormous. We'd need to use the Antarctic Outpost's 0-point module to power the gate, and that's the same ZPM keeping the ancient weapons online. So we choose, Jack said, ancient weapons to defend Earth, or gate travel to get the Asgard core. Can't have both, not unless we find another ZPM, Daniel suggested, which we don't have time to do. Tilak spoke for the first time, his deep voice carrying certainty. Then we must risk the journey. Ancient weapons can destroy replicators, but they are a temporary solution. The Asgard core may contain knowledge that can defeat the replicators permanently. This is worth the risk. Hammond considered this, the weight of command visible on his weathered face. Colonel O'Neill, if we use the ZPM for gate travel and the replicators attack while you're gone, Earth will be defenseless. The ancient weapons will be offline. We'd have nothing to stop them. Then we better work fast, Jack replied. General SG-1 will gate to Orilla, retrieve the core, and gate back before the replicators figure out we're vulnerable. How long can Earth hold without the ancient weapons? Carter ran calculations on her tablet. Based on current replicator expansion rates, maybe 6 hours. After that, they'll have consumed enough infrastructure to start building larger constructs. Maybe even processing stations like the ones Captain Picard described on Federation Earth. 6 hours. Jack had run missions with tighter timelines, but never with stakes this high. Do it, Hammond decided. Colonel, take SG-1 to Orilla, retrieve the Asgard core, and for God's sake, get back before Earth falls. Meanwhile, Enterprise D, Earth orbit, Captain Picard had assembled his senior staff in the observation lounge. On the table between them lay the problem that no one had a solution for. How do you fight an enemy that adapts to everything you throw at it? The replicators have established 73 processing stations across the Saul system, data reported, displaying a holographic map. Each station is consuming matter at an exponential rate. Current projections indicate Earth will be rendered uninhabitable in 30. Complete planetary conversion will occur in. Can we destroy the processing stations? Riker asked. Take them out before they reach full operational capacity. We tried, Worf said grimly. The USS Potemkin engaged the station that consumed the Saratoga. Phasers were ineffective. Quantum torpedoes damaged the structure, but the replicators simply rebuilt faster than we could destroy. Captain, conventional weapons will not work. Geordi LaForge leaned forward, his visor processing tactical data at high speed. What about unconventional weapons? The replicators adapt to energy and kinetic attacks. But what if we attack them at a molecular level? Antimatter bombs detonated inside the processing stations. That would require us to get inside the stations, Beverly Crusher pointed out. And anything that gets close to the replicators gets consumed. We'd be sacrificing ships and crews for a maybe. What about the Borg? Tri suggested, her betazoid senses detecting something in the group's collective anxiety. We've faced enemies that adapt before. The Borg assimilate technology. The replicators consume it. There might be parallels we can exploit. Picard shook his head. The Borg adapt through biological and technological integration. They're a collective consciousness. The replicators are individual units following program directives. Fundamentally different threats, Captain Data interjected. I may have identified a potential weakness. The replicators communicate through quantum entanglement. Each block maintains connection to every other block in the swarm. This allows perfect coordination but creates a vulnerability. If we could disrupt the entanglement, the replicators would lose cohesion. How do we disrupt quantum entanglement on a system-wide scale? Riker asked. We would need a quantum field manipulator, Data replied. Technology that, to my knowledge, does not exist in the Federation. However, the Asgard may have developed such a device. Colonel O'Neill mentioned Thor left coordinates to an Asgard facility. If we could access that facility, we'd need to coordinate with Stargate Command, Picard finished. Mr. Data, contact Colonel O'Neill. Inform him we need access to any Asgard technology that affects quantum fields. If their core contains that knowledge, it might save both our Earths. As Data worked to establish the quantum communication link, Admiral Ross's face appeared on the view screen. He looked worse than before, exhausted, aged, carrying the weight of a dying planet. Captain Picard, Ross began. I have updates. None of them good. The replicators have consumed 40% of Starfleet headquarters and are spreading through San Francisco. We've evacuated 7 million people from the city, but 2 million remain trapped. The transporters can't keep up, and that's just one city. Tokyo, London, Moscow. Everywhere the replicators landed, we're losing ground. How many casualties? Picard asked, though he dreaded the answer. Preliminary estimates 3 million dead across all landing sites. Ross replied. Projected total if we don't stop them, 9 billion. The entire population of Earth. The room went silent. 9 billion. Every person on Earth, the birthplace of humanity, the heart of the Federation, reduced to raw material for a mechanical plague. Admiral, we're coordinating with Stargate Command, Picard said. They're retrieving Asgard technology that may contain a weapon. if we can deploy it before the processing stations reach full capacity. Captain, we don't have days, Ross interrupted. The Federation Council is debating evacuation, loading everyone we can onto ships and abandoning Earth entirely, starting over somewhere else. No, Picard said, his voice harder than he'd intended. Admiral, we don't abandon Earth. Not while there's a chance to save it. There may not be a chance, Ross replied. Captain, I need you to be realistic. The Replicators are winning. Every hour they hold the Saul system is an hour they grow stronger. At some point, evacuation becomes our only option. Then we'll reach that point when there are no other options left, Picard said firmly. Right now, we have allies across a quantum timeline who are fighting the same enemy. We have access to ancient and Asgard technology. We have the finest officers in Starfleet working on solution. We don't evacuate until we've exhausted every possibility. Ross studied Picard for a long moment, then nodded. Understood, Captain. But if you can't find a solution in the next 48 hours, I'm ordering a system-wide evacuation. We save who we can, and let Earth die. Those are my orders from the Council. Make them count. The transmission ended. Picard turned to his crew, seeing the same determination he felt reflected in their faces. Captain Data said, I have established contact with Stargate Command. Colonel O'Neill is preparing to gate to the Asgard homeworld. He estimates retrieval time at 4 hours. However, there is a complication. What complication? Picard asked. O'Neill's team is using their last power source to make the journey, Data explained. If they fail to retrieve the Asgard core, or if the replicators attack while they're gone, 202 Earth will be defenseless. They are betting everything on this one mission. Then we'd better make sure it succeeds, Picard said. Mr. Data, maintain open communication with SGC. If they need assistance, technological, tactical, anything, we provide it. Our 2 Earths survive together or die separately. Aye, sir, Data replied. Then, after a pause, Captain, Colonel O'Neill wishes to speak with you directly. O'Neill's voice came through the comm, carrying that same dry humor despite the apocalypse they faced. Captain, my team is about to do something really stupid. We're gating to the Asgard homeworld, grabbing their knowledge database, and gating back before Earth is overrun by metal bugs. If we succeed, we'll have Asgard technology. If we fail, well, it's been nice knowing you. Colonel, the Federation stands ready to assist, Picard replied. What do you need from us? Pray we don't screw this up, O'Neill said. And Captain, if we don't make it back, tell my Earth story. Tell them we fought. Tell them we tried. Make sure someone remembers there were 2 versions of humanity, and both of them refused to go down without a fight. Picard felt the weight of that request. 2 Earths, 2 timelines, 2 versions of the same species, separated by 68 years but united by a shared threat. You'll make it back, Colonel, Picard said with conviction. I don't know how I know that, but I do. You'll retrieve the core. You'll return. And together, we'll save both our worlds. You have my word. Then I guess I'd better not make you a liar, O'Neill replied. We're stepping through the gate in 5 minutes. Wish us luck. O'Neill. Out. The communication ended. Picard stood in his observation lounge, surrounded by his crew, facing an impossible situation with inadequate resources and a ticking clock. Captain, Riker said quietly, what if they don't make it? What if the Asgard core doesn't contain a weapon? What do we do then? Picard looked out the window at Earth, beautiful, blue, dying. The planet where humanity first looked up at the stars and wondered what was out there. Where Zephram Cochrane made first contact with the Vulcans. Where the Federation was born, where 9 billion people lived and loved and dreamed, unaware that they had 47 days left. Then we fight, Picard said simply. With every weapon we have, with every ship, with every person. We fight until there's nothing left to fight with. Because that's what humans do. We survive. Against all odds, against impossible enemies, we survive. He turned to face his crew. Mr. Data, I want you analyzing every second of sensor data we have on the replicators. Find me a pattern, a weakness, anything. Geordi, work with your team on weapons modifications. If energy doesn't work, maybe we can create a hybrid weapon that combines energy and kinetic force. Worf, coordinate with the fleet. I want every ship running tactical simulations on how to attack the processing station. What about evacuation planning? Troy asked. If Admiral Ross orders it. If he orders it, we'll comply, Picard said. But Counselor, I need you working on a different problem. 9 billion people. Even if we use every ship in Starfleet, we can't evacuate them all. So I need you to develop psychological protocols for helping people accept that they might not make it out. Because if we do evacuate, we'll be choosing who lives and who dies. And that's a burden I need the crew prepared to carry. The silence that followed was heavy. No one wanted to think about that scenario, but it was coming. In 47 days, maybe sooner, someone would have to decide which families got on ships and which families died on Earth. All right, people, let's get to work, Picard said, dismissing them. We have 2 Earths to save and not a lot of time. Make every second count. As his crew filed out, Picard remained at the window, watching Earth rotate slowly below. Somewhere down there in San Francisco, or what remained of it, the Replicators were converting Starfleet headquarters into more of themselves, converting the symbol of everything the Federation stood for into a machine plague. On his console, a message notification appeared. Data had routed through another transmission from Colonel O'Neill. Captain, SG-1 is through the gate. 4-hour countdown starts now. If you don't hear from us, assume we failed. And Captain, take care of my Earth if yours survives. Someone should remember. O'Neill. Picard read the message twice, understanding the weight behind those words. O'Neill was preparing for the possibility that his timeline might not make it, that 2002 Earth might fall while 2370 Earth survived. And he wanted someone to remember. I'll remember, Colonel, Picard said quietly to the empty room. Both Earths, both humanities. I'll make sure the story is told. Outside the window, a replicator processing station completed another stage of construction. A massive structure pulsed with absorbed energy, growing larger, consuming more matter, preparing for the systematic conversion of Earth. 47 days. The clock was ticking, and humanity across 2 timelines was running out of time. The orbital defense platforms had been Starfleet's pride. 26 automated weapon stations circling Earth at strategic points, capable of repelling invasion fleets, defending against asteroid impacts, maintaining the shield grid that protected humanity's homeworld. The replicators consumed all 26 in under an hour. Captain Picard watched from the Enterprise bridge as Defense Platform 7, a structure the size of a small starship, was enveloped by a swarm of replicator blocks. The platform's automated systems fired phasers, photon torpedoes, everything in its arsenal. For 30 seconds it looked like the platform might win. Hundreds of replicator blocks shattered under the weapon's fire. Then the survivors adapted. They absorbed the energy, used it to replicate faster, and overwhelmed the platform through sheer numbers. The structure didn't explode. It simply came apart, disassembled at a molecular level, converted into millions more replicator blocks that immediately spread to the next target. Defense Platform 7 destroyed. Data reported from Ops, his android voice carrying no emotion despite the catastrophe unfolding. Platforms 8, 12 and 19 are under assault. Estimate complete network failure in 14 minutes. Reinforce them, Admiral Ross's voice came over the comm from Starfleet Command, or what remained of it. The building was half consumed, the staff evacuated to emergency command centers across the globe. Captain, we need those platforms. They're the only thing keeping replicator orbital constructs from achieving unrestricted firing positions on Earth's surface. Admiral, reinforcing them is pointless, Picard replied, hating every word. Every ship we send, every weapon we fire, just gives the replicators more material to work with. We're feeding them. Then what do you suggest? Ross demanded, his frustration breaking through. We just let them take orbital control. Picard looked at the tactical display, at the swarm of replicator contacts spreading through Earth orbit like a cancer. The processing stations they'd built from the Saratoga and other consumed vessels were producing new blocks by the millions. Mathematics as cold and inevitable as death itself. Humanity couldn't win this fight conventionally. We evacuate, Picard said, the words tasting like ash. We pull back to the outer system, regroup, and wait for Colonel O'Neill's team to retrieve the Asgard weapon. Fighting here is suicide. The silence on the other end stretched for 5 seconds. Then Ross's voice came back harder. Captain, there are 9 billion people on Earth. We don't have ships to evacuate 9 billion people. If we pull back, we're abandoning them. If we stay, we lose the fleet and the planet, Picard countered. Admiral, I know what you're asking me to do. I know what it means, but we need to preserve our forces for when we have a weapon that actually works. Right now, we're just dying for nothing. Another pause. Then, Federation Council has authorized evacuation of essential personnel. Starfleet command staff, government officials, Federation Council members. Captain, begin emergency transports. Get as many people out as you can, but the fleet stays in Earth orbit until evacuation is complete. We don't abandon anyone until we absolutely have to. The transmission ended. Picard turned to his crew, seeing the same horror he felt reflected in their faces. Mr. Worf, Picard said quietly, begin emergency transport operations. Beam out as many people as our transporters can handle. Prioritize children, medical staff, and anyone with critical skills will need to rebuild. Aye, Captain, Worf replied, his Klingon honor struggling with the reality of selective evacuation, choosing who lived and who died based on arbitrary value judgments. How do we choose? There are 8 billion non-essential personnel. We don't, Picard said. We transport everyone we can until either the replicators force us to retreat or we run out of people to save. No one gets left behind by choice, only by necessity. The Enterprise's transporters began operating at maximum capacity, 48 people every 6 seconds, cycling continuously, pulling civilians from endangered cities and depositing them on ships bound for other Federation worlds. Other vessels did the same. 43 starships working together could evacuate maybe 500,000 people per hour. It would take 18,000 hours, 750 days to evacuate everyone. They had maybe 14 hours before replicators controlled the entire planet. On the view screen, Earth rotated slowly, beautiful and blue and dying. Picard had orbited this planet hundreds of times over 30 years in Starfleet. He'd looked down at oceans and continents and cities, had felt pride in what humanity had built, had known that somewhere down there, in France, the vineyard where he'd grown up still produced wine under the same sun that had warmed him as a child. All of it was about to be consumed by a mechanical plague that didn't hate, didn't fear, didn't even understand what it was destroying, just programmed to consume and replicate, following ancient directives written millions of years ago by the ancients as a weapon against enemies long dead. Captain, Replicator constructs are moving, Data announced. The processing stations have begun orbital maneuvers. They are positioning themselves above major population centers. The tactical display showed it clearly. 73 massive structures, each one built from consumed Starfleet ships and defense platforms, moving into position above Earth's largest cities. San Francisco, Tokyo, London, Moscow, São Paulo, Mumbai, Cairo, Beijing. What are they doing? Riker asked, though his tactical training had already given him the answer. Preparing for ground assault, Worf replied grimly. They have established orbital superiority. Now they will consume the planet's surface. As if responding to Worf's assessment, the nearest processing station opened. Not with weapons fire, but with release. Millions of replicator blocks falling from orbit, entering Earth's atmosphere like a mechanical meteor shower, burning through the sky with trails of fire. They struck San Francisco first, the city where Starfleet Academy had trained officers for 200 years, where the Federation Council deliberated, where Picard himself had spent 2 years as a cadet, young and idealistic and certain that the Federation would last forever. The replicators hit with kinetic force that shattered buildings, then immediately began consuming everything around them. Streets, vehicles, power lines, people. The city that had survived earthquakes, wars, and centuries of human history was being disassembled in real time. Emergency transport, Picard ordered. Get everyone out of San Francisco, now. The Enterprise's transporters screamed under the load, cycling faster than safety protocols allowed, pulling people out seconds before the replicators reached them. But for every person saved, 3 others were consumed, absorbed into the mechanical swarm, their organic matter processed into raw material for replication. Captain, I am detecting transport requests from 14-7 different locations, Data reported. We cannot service all of them. We must prioritize. Prioritize. Choose which cities lived and which cities died. Choose which families got beamed out and which families became food for machines. Focus on children, Picard decided, the words breaking something inside him. Anyone under 18 gets priority. After that, medical personnel and engineers. Everyone else, he couldn't finish. The transporters continued their grim work. Across the Federation fleet, 43 starships performed the same desperate triage, saving thousands while millions burned. On the view screen, San Francisco was disappearing. Not destroyed, consumed. Where buildings had stood, now only spreading swarms of replicators remained, consuming more, replicating faster, moving towards surrounding cities with mechanical inevitability. Admiral Ross is hailing, Worf announced. Audio only. Heavy interference. Ross's voice came through, distorted and desperate. All ships. This is Admiral Ross. Starfleet Command is being overrun. We're evacuating to the USS Challenger. Captain Picard, I'm transferring Fleet Command to you. Defend Earth as long as possible, then retreat to... Static consumed his words. Preserve the Federation. Don't let them take the ships. Ross out. The transmission died. On sensors, Picard watched the Challenger, Ambassador class, smaller than the Enterprise, pull away from Earth orbit at maximum impulse, pursued by a swarm of replicators that had learned to move through vacuum. Challenger's shields are holding, data reported. However, replicators are adapting to their shield frequency. Estimate penetration in 4 minutes. 4 minutes. Picard had 4 minutes to decide. Chase after the Challenger and save Ross, or stay at Earth and save civilians. Mr. Data, can we beam Admiral Ross off the Challenger from this range? Negative, Captain. Distance is too great and replicator interference is disrupting our transporter lock. Picard made the choice. Maintain position at Earth. Continue evacuation operations. The Challenger is on her own. It was the right decision. The tactical decision. The decision that saved more lives. It was also the decision that condemned Admiral Ross and 750 crew members to death by replicator consumption. Picard watched the Challenger's shields fail, watched replicators swarm the ship, watched it come apart like tissue paper, disassembled in seconds, converted into more of the enemy. Ross's last transmission had made him fleet commander, and his first act in that role was letting Ross die. Captain, Counselor Troy said quietly from her station, her empathic senses overwhelmed by the death and fear radiating from 9 billion minds below. We need to leave. The crew, they can't handle this much longer. We've been transporting people out for 3 hours. They're exhausted, they're traumatized, and we can't save everyone. If we stay, we'll just watch more people die until the replicators consume us too. Picard wanted to argue, wanted to order them to stay, to fight, to save one more person, one more family, one more child. But Troy was right. The crew was breaking. He could see it in their faces. Data processing horrors his emotion chip made him feel, Worf's Klingon honor cracking under the weight of retreat, Geordi's hands shaking as he routed more power to transporters that would never be enough. And on the view screen, Earth continued to die. All hands, Picard transmitted, his voice steady despite everything. Prepare to evacuate Earth orbit. We've saved 470,000 people today. That's 470,000 who will survive because of your efforts. But we can't save everyone. And staying longer means we lose the ships we'll need to fight back. So we retreat. We regroup. And we find a way to kill these things. Helm, set course for Jupiter. Warp 6. Engage. The Enterprise turned away from Earth. 42 other starships followed. The USS Challenger's destruction had reduced their fleet by 1. They left behind 9 billion people, a dying planet, and the weight of failure that would haunt every surviving officer for the rest of their lives. As they reached the edge of Earth's gravity well, Picard's console beeped. An incoming message, text only, from a source he didn't recognize. He opened it and felt hope flare for the first time in hours. It was from Colonel O'Neill, transmitted across 368 years of quantum divergence. Captain, we found it. Thor's time capsule. Buried at Starfleet Academy construction site right where we told you it would be. Message says replicators adapt to energy. Use kinetics. Asgard developed counter-frequency weapon. Coordinates follow. Picard, we have a location. We have a chance. Get your people out of there and meet us halfway. O'Neill out. Coordinates followed the message. A star system 47 light-years from Earth, containing an abandoned Asgard research facility. According to Thor's data, that facility housed the weapon they needed. The weapon that could kill replicators across quantum realities. The weapon that might save both Earths. Mr. Data, Picard ordered, his voice carrying renewed purpose. Plot a course to these coordinates. Maximum warp. And contact Colonel O'Neill. Tell him the Federation is coming. Tell him we're not giving up. Behind them, Earth continued to burn. But ahead, perhaps, lay salvation. Or at least revenge. The replicators hit Cheyenne Mountain like a mechanical tsunami. Colonel Jack O'Neill had faced Goa'uld armies, Ori Crusaders, even alternate reality versions of himself trying to kill him. But nothing in 15 years of running Stargate missions had prepared him for this. Fighting an enemy that couldn't be reasoned with, couldn't be scared, and wouldn't stop coming no matter how many you killed. Contact. Level 18. A Marine shouted into his radio, the sound of gunfire deafening in the background. Estimate 200 hostiles moving fast. They're in the walls. They're in the goddamn walls. Jack sprinted through SGC's corridors with SG-1 heading toward the breach. Teal'c led the way with his staff weapon. Carter carried her P-90 and enough C4 to level a city block, and Daniel somehow still had his glasses, despite everything having gone to hell 3 hours ago. They reached level 18 to find organized chaos. 30 Marines in defensive positions, firing continuously at a swarm of replicators that poured through ventilation ducts, climbed across walls and ceilings, moved with insect-like coordination that made Jack's skin crawl. The Marines were using everything. Assault rifles, shotguns, grenades, even bayonets when the replicators got close. Kinetic weapons worked better than energy weapons. Jack had learned that much from the first wave, but the replicators adapted fast. Already he could see them developing armor plating, reconfiguring their blocks to deflect bullets, moving in patterns that minimized exposure. Concentrate fire, Jack ordered, dropping to one knee and opening up with his P-90. Don't spread damage, kill them one at a time. Make every shot count. Bullets tore through replicator blocks, shattering the mechanical organisms into component pieces. But for every one destroyed, the swarm produced 3 more from consumed metal and circuitry. A replicator leaped at a Marine, Private Chen, fresh out of boot camp, maybe 20 years old. The thing latched onto his body armor and began consuming it, metal dissolving into blocks that reconfigured before Jack's eyes. Chen screamed, not in pain but in terror, as his armor disappeared and the replicator started on his uniform, his flesh him. Teal'c's staff blast hit the replicator square, blasting it off Chen. The Marine stumbled back, his chest armor gone, the skin underneath showing chemical burns where the replicator had started processing his organic matter. Fall back, Jack ordered, grabbing Chen and half-dragging him toward the checkpoint. Fighting retreat. We can't hold this position. The Marines retreated in good order, covering each other, making the replicators pay for every meter of corridor. But they were losing. Jack could see it in the numbers. 30 defenders when they'd started, now 23, and the replicators just kept coming. They reached the blast doors at level 19, reinforced barriers designed to contain nuclear, biological, and chemical threats. Jack's team was the last through. The doors slammed shut with a sound like a coffin closing. How long will those hold? Daniel asked, leaning against the wall and trying to catch his breath. Against conventional forces? Days. Carter replied, checking her tablet's connection to SGC's sensors. Against replicators? They're already consuming the door. I give us maybe 15 minutes before they breach. Then we use those 15 minutes to fall back further, Jack decided. Carter, where are the replicators concentrating? She pulled up a facility map on her tablet. Red dots indicated replicator presence, and there were hundreds of them. They're spreading through the mountain, sir. But the highest concentration is here. She pointed at the map. Levels 21 through 28. The lower levels. They're heading for the gate room. Jack felt ice in his stomach. They want the Stargate. If they get access to the gate network, they spread to thousands of worlds. Teal'c finished. Billions of humans enslaved by Goa'uld would become replicator material. The galaxy would fall in weeks. Then we blow the gate, Daniel said. Bury it under 1,000 feet of rock. Deny them the resource. Can't. Carter replied. The gate is naquadah, indestructible by conventional explosives. We'd need a nuke, and that would take out the entire mountain, including us and everyone still inside. Behind them, the blast doors shuddered. Metal screeched. The replicators were through the first layer, working on the second. Jack made a decision. Carter, Daniel, get to the Antarctic outpost. Remote activate the weapons platform. Those ancient drones are the only things that've worked against the replicators. Fire them into Cheyenne Mountain if you have to, but don't let those things reach the gate. Sir, if we fire ancient drones into the mountain with you still inside, Carter protested. Then I'll die doing something useful, Jack interrupted. Teal'c and I will hold the gate room. You two will save the planet. That's an order, Major. Carter's face showed the internal struggle following orders versus saving her commanding officer. But she was military, and Jack was right. Someone had to stop the replicators from accessing the gate, and someone had to activate the ancient weapons. They couldn't do both. Yes, sir, Carter said finally. She and Daniel ran for the emergency exit that would take them to the surface, to a helicopter that would get them to Antarctica, to Earth's last defense. Jack turned to Teal'c. You don't have to stay. You've got a family. Royak needs his father. Teal'c raised his staff weapon, his expression carrying absolute certainty. My family is free because of Earth. Because of you, O'Neill. I will not abandon either now. We fight together, we die together if necessary. This is the way. Jack grinned despite everything. You're a good friend, T. Really terrible at following sensible advice. But a good friend. Let's go save a Stargate. They ran for the gate room, reaching it just as General Hammond was coordinating the facility's defense. The gate itself stood inactive, dialed down, waiting. Around it, Marines had erected barricades, set up heavy weapons, prepared for a siege. Colonel O'Neill, Hammond said, relief evident in his voice. Thank God, the replicators are coming from above. We've sealed every entrance, but they're consuming the doors. We have maybe 10 minutes before an explosion cut him off. Not from the replicators, but from SGC's self-destruct system being activated somewhere in the facility. What the hell was that? Jack demanded. Hammond's face went pale. Someone activated the auto-destruct. We have 30 minutes before the naquadah enhanced nuclear warhead detonates. That explosion will destroy everything within a 100-mile radius. Who authorized that? Jack asked, though he already suspected. I did, a voice said from the control room above. Lieutenant Collins, a young officer who'd lost his entire team to replicators an hour ago. Sir, we can't let them take the gate. This is the only way to be sure. Hammond grabbed the intercom. Lieutenant, stand down. We can still evacuate. There are 300 personnel in this facility, who won't make it out in time anyway, Collins replied, his voice carrying the eerie calm of someone who'd accepted death. General, I'm sorry, but this is the right call. 30 minutes gives us time to get most people out, and it guarantees the replicators don't spread beyond Earth. I'm sealing the control room. Auto-destruct cannot be cancelled. Collins out. The intercom died. Jack stared at the gate room, at the 300 people who'd just been told they had 30 minutes to live, at the Stargate that was about to be destroyed to save a galaxy. All right, Jack said, his command voice cutting through the panic. Everyone listen up. We have 30 minutes before this mountain becomes a crater. That means we have 30 minutes to save as many people as possible. Marines, you're escorting civilians to the surface. Use the emergency tunnels. SGC personnel, grab whatever data you can carry, anything that might help us understand replicators or rebuild if we survive this. Teal'c and I will hold the gate room until everyone's out. Move. The evacuation began with military efficiency. Personnel running for escape tunnels, carrying wounded, grabbing data crystals and backup drives that contained 6 years of Stargate knowledge. The gate room became a controlled stampede of people trying to reach safety before either the replicators or the nuclear warhead killed them. Jack and Teal'c stood at the gate room entrance, weapons ready, watching the corridor where the replicators would come. O'Neill, Teal'c said quietly, it has been an honor serving with you. Don't go getting sentimental on me, Jack replied. We're not dead yet. The blast doors at the corridor's end exploded inward. Through the opening poured replicators, hundreds of them, a mechanical tide that filled the corridor wall to wall, ceiling to floor, advancing with coordinated purpose. Jack and Teal'c opened fire. The P-90 and staff weapon hammered the replicator swarm, destroying dozens in the first seconds. But more kept coming. Always more. The mechanical organisms adapted their approach, using destroyed blocks as shields, moving in patterns that minimize damage, learning from every shot fired. 25 minutes. Someone shouted from behind them. Jack's P-90 magazine ran dry. He ejected it, slapped in a new one, kept firing. Beside him, Teal'c's staff weapon blazed continuously, the Jaffa warrior showing no sign of fatigue despite fighting for 3 hours straight. A replicator got through, then 3, then a dozen. They swarmed into the gate room, and the Marines who'd stayed to provide cover engaged in desperate hand-to-hand combat. Men with rifles using them as clubs, smashing replicators against walls, stomping on blocks that tried to consume their boots. 15 minutes. The evacuation was nearly complete. Jack could see the last civilians disappearing into escape tunnels, carrying wounded, supporting each other. Maybe 270 people had made it out. 30 remained. The Marines providing cover, Hammond coordinating from the control room, Jack and Teal'c holding the gate. "General, get out of here," Jack shouted up at the control room. "We've got this." "Negative, Colonel," Hammond replied, his voice carrying the authority of 30 years in command. "I'm staying until the last person is out. That's my duty." 10 minutes. The replicator swarm had filled half the gate room now. Jack and Teal'c were forced back, fighting a running retreat, trying to buy seconds for the last Marines to escape. They reached the Stargate itself, standing at its base, backs to the inactive ring, making their last stand at the symbol of everything they'd been fighting to protect. "Jack," Carter's voice crackled over his radio. "We're at the Antarctic outpost. Ancient weapons are powering up, but the control chair needs 30 seconds to lock onto Cheyenne Mountain, and we're reading the auto-destruct countdown. You need to get out now." "Working on it," Jack shouted back, firing his last magazine at the replicators. 30 rounds. He made them count. 5 minutes. Teal'c's staff weapon finally ran out of power. The Jaffa warrior swung it like a club, smashing replicators with physical force, his enhanced Jaffa strength sufficient to shatter the mechanical organisms. But there were too many. "O'Neill, I believe this is what humans call a no-win scenario," Teal'c said, somehow finding humor despite imminent death. "Yeah, I've had a few of those," Jack replied. "They suck every time." The replicators pressed forward. Jack drew his sidearm, a 9mm Beretta, woefully inadequate, but the only weapon he had left, fired until the slide locked back on an empty chamber. Drew his knife, prepared to meet death standing. And then the mountain shook. Not the auto-destruct that was still 3 minutes away.
This was something else.
A high-pitched frequency that made Jack's teeth ache, that made the replicators freeze mid-advance. From Antarctica, 4,500 miles away, ancient drones phased through solid rock, guided by Carter sitting in the ancient control chair. They struck every replicator in Cheyenne Mountain with surgical precision, disrupting their quantum programming, making the mechanical organisms simply fall apart. The swarm died in seconds. Hundreds of replicators reduced to inert blocks of metal and circuitry, no longer replicating, no longer consuming, just stopped. "Colonel O'Neill," Carter's voice came over the radio, "the Antarctic weapons platform has eliminated all replicator presence in your facility. You're clear, but sir, you have 90 seconds before auto-destruct. Move." Jack grabbed Teal'c. Together they ran for the nearest escape tunnel, Hammond and the last Marines ahead of them. 30 people sprinting through corridors, racing against a countdown that didn't care about heroism or duty or survival. They burst out of the mountain's surface entrance with 15 seconds to spare, diving behind a ridge of rock, covering their heads. The mountain shook, a sound like God clearing his throat. The ground beneath them rippled, but there was no explosion. The auto-destruct's fail-safe had engaged, redirecting the blast downward, containing most of the energy, burying the Stargate under 1,000 feet of collapsed rock instead of creating a crater that would have been visible from space. When the dust settled, Cheyenne Mountain was gone. The facility that had housed Stargate Command for 6 years was now just rubble and buried technology, but the gate was sealed. The replicators couldn't use it. Earth was safe from intergalactic spread. For now. Jack sat up, covered in dust, his ears ringing. Around him, 30 survivors, all that remained of SGC's 300-person staff. The rest had either made it out through other tunnels or died fighting the replicators. His radio crackled. "Jack, this is Daniel. We're still reading replicator activity globally. The Antarctic weapons platform killed the ones at Cheyenne Mountain, but there are hundreds of other landing sites. Sir, we saved SGC, but Earth is still under attack." Jack looked at the ruins of the mountain, at the survivors around him, at the sky where somewhere a swarm of replicators was consuming humanity's civilization one piece at a time. "Then we keep fighting," Jack said tiredly. "Hammond, where's the nearest military installation?" "Peterson Air Force Base, 15 miles east," Hammond replied. "They've been holding off replicators using conventional weapons. Casualties are high, but they're still operational."
Then that's our new base of operations, Jack decided. We regroup, we resupply, and we keep killing these things until either we win or we're dead. Because that's what we do. Teal'c, can you walk?
"I can run if necessary, O'Neill," Teal'c replied, standing with a Jaffa warrior's resilience. "Good," Jack said, "because we've got a planet to save. And Carter," he transmitted over his radio, "keep that Antarctic outpost running. It's the only weapon we have that works. And contact Captain Picard. Tell him we're still in the fight. Tell him both Earths, aren't going down without taking a hell of a lot of replicators with us." He stood, staring at the ruins of everything he'd built over 6 years, feeling the weight of 270 dead SGC personnel, knowing that across the planet millions more were dying. But Jack O'Neill had survived worse. He'd brought his team back from impossible situations. He'd saved Earth a dozen times from enemies that should have destroyed humanity. The replicators were just one more impossible enemy, and Jack was very good at doing impossible things. USS Enterprise D, approaching Asgard Research Facility. The coordinates Thor had left led to a dead world. Captain Picard stood on the Enterprise bridge, watching the planet appear on the view screen as they dropped out of warp. The world had no official name. The Asgard had designated it simply as Research Station 47. But it had clearly been important once. Massive orbital platforms hung in space, dark and lifeless. On the surface, ruins of cities that had never known human or any biological life, structures built by a race of clones for whom biology was just another technology to be manipulated. "Scanning for life signs," data reported. "Negative. No biological signatures detected. However, I am reading significant power generation from a facility beneath the planet's surface. The energy output is consistent with Asgard's zero-point module technology." "Could be a trap," Riker suggested. "The replicators consumed the Asgard. This facility might be compromised." Thor's message was specific. Picard replied, reading the decoded transmission again on his console. He said the Asgard prepared for their own extinction. They left humanity a legacy. All their knowledge, stored in something called the Asgard core. If that's down there, it might contain the weapon we need. Counselor Troy closed her eyes, her empathic senses reaching out toward the planet below. "I don't sense any replicator presence. No consciousness at all. Just emptiness. And something else. Sadness, maybe. Like this place is a tomb." "It is a tomb," Geordi said quietly, from the engineering station. "The Asgard committed species-wide suicide to prevent the replicators from taking their knowledge. This planet is their grave." Picard felt the weight of that. An entire civilization, millions of years old, more advanced than the Federation could hope to be for centuries, had chosen death over the possibility of their technology being used by the enemy. It was the ultimate sacrifice, and the ultimate acknowledgement of how dangerous the replicators truly were. "Away team," Picard decided. "Mr. Data, Commander Riker, Lieutenant Worf, you're with me. We beam down, locate the Asgard core, and return immediately. Geordi, you have the con. If we're not back in 2 hours, assume we're not coming back and proceed to rendezvous with Colonel O'Neill's forces." "Captain, with respect, is it wise for you to lead the away team?" Geordi asked. "You're fleet commander now. If something happens, then Commander Riker takes command," Picard interrupted. "But Geordi," Thor's message was addressed to humanity. Not to Starfleet, not to the Federation, to our species. If the Asgard left us their legacy, then someone needs to accept it properly. And I won't ask my crew to face danger. I'm not willing to face myself. He stood, straightened his uniform. Energize. The transporter beam deposited them in a chamber that was clearly Asgard in construction. Smooth walls that seemed grown rather than built. Crystalline columns that pulsed with faint light. Technology integrated so seamlessly with architecture that it was impossible to tell where one ended and the other began. But the chamber was damaged. Scorch marks covered the walls. Computer terminals were shattered. And in the center of the room lay the body of an Asgard. Not dead. The Asgard didn't die conventionally. This was a clone body, empty. The consciousness that had inhabited it long departed. But its presence was a reminder of what had been lost. This way, Data said, his tricorder leading them through corridors lit by emergency lighting. The power source is 300 meters ahead. Down. They descended through levels of the facility, each one showing more signs of battle. The Asgard hadn't gone quietly. They'd fought the Replicators here, made their stand, bought time for something. What were they doing here? Worf wondered aloud, his tactical mind analyzing the defensive positions. This facility was designed for research, not warfare. Yet they fought to defend it. They were buying time to complete the core, Data replied, his android senses processing data from the facility's computers. Captain, I am accessing partial records. The Asgard knew the Replicators would eventually overwhelm them. They began this project 3 years ago. A comprehensive database containing all Asgard knowledge, technology, history, culture, everything they were. When the Replicators breached their final defenses, the Asgard uploaded their consciousnesses into the core, then triggered the extinction pulse. They preserved themselves digitally, Riker realized. Not alive, but not entirely gone either. Like a message in a bottle thrown into the future, hoping someone worthy would find it. They reached the lowest level. The doors were massive, designed to withstand planetary-scale impacts. Data interfaced with the control panel, his android efficiency translating Asgard protocols instantly. The doors opened with a sound like continental plates grinding together. Beyond was a chamber that made everyone stop and stare. The Asgard core. It hung suspended in the center of the room, a crystalline sphere 2 meters in diameter, glowing with internal light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Around it, holographic displays showed streams of data, mathematics, physics, engineering, biology, all the knowledge the Asgard had accumulated over millions of years. And standing before it, projected as a hologram, was Thor. Greetings, Thor's image said, his familiar voice carrying through the chamber. If you are seeing this, then the Asgard are extinct and you are humanity. We always believed you would reach this facility eventually. You are persistent, adaptable, creative, qualities we admire, qualities we needed. The hologram gestured to the core. This contains everything we were. Our science, our history, our mistakes and triumphs. We give it to you freely, with one request. Do better than we did. We created the Replicators as weapons against our enemies. They became a plague that destroyed us. Learn from our error. Use our knowledge wisely. Picard stepped forward, addressing the hologram, though he knew it was just a recording. Commander Thor, humanity will honor your gift. We'll use your knowledge to stop the Replicators. To save Earth, both Earths. You have my word. The hologram seemed to look directly at Picard, though that was impossible for a pre-recorded message. Captain Picard. Yes, we knew you would be the one to find this. We studied your species extensively. You are the 5th race, the inheritors of this galaxy. The ancients seeded your potential, the Nox nurtured it. We weaponized it, and now you must fulfill it. The core contains the weapon you seek, a quantum frequency disruptor that targets replicator programming across all quantum realities simultaneously. It requires immense power, the energy output of a star. But it will work. It will save you. The hologram flickered. However, there is a cost. Using this weapon will destabilize your sun. Not immediately, but over time. Years, perhaps decades. Your star will die, Captain. Earth will become uninhabitable. You will save your species by sacrificing your homeworld. This is the price of survival. Choose wisely. The hologram faded. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of the core. He's asking us to kill Earth, Riker said quietly. To drain our sun, destabilize it, make it go supernova eventually. We'd save humanity by destroying the planet that created us, not just Federation Earth, Data added, his android mind already processing the implications. The quantum frequency weapon affects both timelines simultaneously. If we use it, both suns will destabilize. 202 Earth and 2370 Earth. Both doomed. Worf's expression was grim. This is not honor. This is not victory. This is trading one death for another. Picard stared at the core, feeling the weight of the decision settling on him like a physical burden. Thor had given them exactly what they needed. A weapon that would kill the replicators across both timelines, saving billions of lives, stopping the mechanical plague before it consumed the galaxy. The cost was Earth itself, the birthplace of humanity. The planet where warp drive was invented, where first contact with Vulcans happened, where the Federation was founded, all of human history, 4.5 billion years of geological development, 9 billion lives that called it home. Captain, Data said, I must note that the alternative is worse. If we do not use this weapon, the replicators will consume Earth anyway. In 47 days, the planet will be completely converted into replicator material. Using the weapon buys us time, years, perhaps decades, to evacuate. It is the logical choice. Logic isn't the issue, Picard replied. The issue is choosing between two catastrophes. Either we let the replicators kill Earth quickly, or we kill Earth slowly ourselves. Either way, we're the generation that watched humanity's homeworld die. He turned to his officers. We need to contact Colonel O'Neill. This decision affects both timelines. We make it together. Meanwhile, Peterson Air Force Base. Colonel Jack O'Neill sat in a makeshift command center, really just a tent with some laptops and military radios, trying to coordinate Earth's defense with resources that were depleting by the hour. The replicators had consumed 20 major cities. 200 million people dead. The Antarctic weapons platform had killed thousands of replicators, but millions more kept coming. Every bullet fired, every missile launched, every bomb dropped just gave the replicators more material to work with. Earth was losing, slowly, inevitably, mathematically. Sir, incoming transmission, Sam Carter said, adjusting the ancient communication device they'd salvaged from SGC's ruins. It's from the Enterprise, Captain Picard. He says it's urgent. Patch him through, Jack ordered. Picard's voice came through the device, calm but carrying an undercurrent of tension. Colonel O'Neill, we've located the Asgard core. Commander Thor left us a weapon, a quantum frequency disruptor that targets replicators across all quantum realities. It will work. It will save both our Earths. Great, Jack said. So what's the catch? There's always a catch. A pause. Then, the weapon requires the energy output of a star to function. It will drain our sun, destabilize it over years or decades. Earth becomes uninhabitable. Both Earths, Colonel, 2002 and 2370. We save humanity by sacrificing our homeworld. Jack sat back, the words hitting him like a physical blow. He looked around the command tent at Hammond, at Carter, at Daniel, at Teal'c, at the faces of people who'd just been told their planet had an expiration date. How long? Jack asked. How long do we have before the sun fails? Unknown, Picard replied. Years, certainly. Perhaps decades. Long enough to evacuate the population through Stargates or Federation ships. But Colonel, Earth dies either way. The only question is whether we control how it dies. Jack stood, walked to the tent entrance, looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, beyond the atmosphere, a Federation starship captained by a man from 368 years in the future was asking him to help kill the planet they both called home. What do you recommend? Jack asked. I recommend we do it, Picard said bluntly. We use the weapon. We kill the replicators. We save billions of lives. And then we spend the next years or decades evacuating everyone to new worlds. Earth dies, but humanity survives. That's the trade Thor is offering us. And if we refuse? Jack asked. If we keep fighting conventionally, then the replicators consume Earth in 47 days. Picard replied. 9 billion people on my Earth. 6 billion on yours. All dead. Converted into replicator material. The galaxy falls shortly after. Colonel, this isn't a good choice versus a bad choice. This is a terrible choice versus extinction. Jack turned back to his team. Opinions? Carter spoke first. Sir, from a purely strategic standpoint, Captain Picard is right. We're losing. The Antarctic weapons can kill replicators, but we can't keep them powered indefinitely. And every day we delay, more people die. Using the Asgard weapons saves more lives than any alternative. But it's still murder, Daniel protested. We're killing our planet. Billions of years of evolution, countless species, all of human history, just gone. How do we live with that? We live by surviving, Tilak said quietly. Earth is not sacred ground, Daniel Jackson. It is a planet. What makes it meaningful is the people who live upon it. If we save the people by sacrificing the planet, we preserve what truly matters. Hammond cleared his throat. Colonel, the decision is above my pay grade, but for what it's worth, I think we do it. We use the weapon, we evacuate over time, and we make sure future generations remember Earth, tell its story, carry its memory to the stars. That's how we honor it. Jack looked at each of them, then back at the sky. Earth, his home, where he'd been born, grown up, lost his son, found purpose, where humanity had evolved from apes to a species that reached for the stars, and now he was being asked to kill it to save it. Captain Picard, Jack said into the communicator, his voice steady. Let's do it. Use the weapon. Kill the replicators. Save as many people as we can. And then we'll figure out how to evacuate both Earths before the sun goes supernova. Because you're right. It's a terrible choice, but it's the only choice we have. Agreed, Picard replied. Colonel, we'll need to coordinate precisely. The weapon must be fired simultaneously from both timelines. I'm transmitting the technical specifications to Major Carter now. You have ancient technology at the Antarctic outpost. We have Federation technology in the Asgard core. Together we create a combined weapon that affects both quantum realities. How long do we have to prepare? Jack asked. Unknown, Picard said. But the replicators are adapting. They're building processing stations on both our Earths. If those reach full operational capacity, they'll consume our planets faster than we can evacuate. My estimate, we have 7. After that, even the weapon won't matter because there won't be anyone left to save. 72 hours. 3 days to build a weapon that would kill a plague but doom a planet. Then we'd better get started, Jack said. O'Neill out. The transmission ended. Jack stood in the command tent, feeling the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders. He'd made hard choices before, sent people to die, sacrificed teams to save missions, pulled triggers that ended lives, but this was different. This was choosing to kill Earth itself. Sir, Carter said quietly, we should get started on the technical preparations. The ancient weapons platform will need extensive modifications to generate the quantum frequency, and we'll need to synchronize with the Enterprise across 3 means of temporal divergence. The margin for error is 0, Jack finished. Yeah, I get it. All right, people, you heard the captain. We've got 72 hours to save the world by destroying it. Let's make them count. He walked out of the tent, looked up at the sun, the same sun that had warmed Earth for 4.5 billion years, that had made life possible, that had witnessed humanity's entire existence. In a few days he'd help kill it. And somehow, that was the right choice. 2 Earths, 2 timelines, 1 enemy. The next 48 hours were the most desperate in human history across both timelines. On 2370 Federation Earth, the replicators controlled 60% of the planet's surface. San Francisco was gone. Tokyo was gone. Moscow, London, São Paulo, all consumed. The processing stations in orbit worked continuously, converting Earth's mass into replicator material at exponential rates. Captain Picard had pulled the Enterprise back to Jupiter, using the gas giant's radiation to mask their sensor signature while Data worked frantically to adapt the Asgard core into a deployable weapon. The process should have taken months. The technical challenge is significant, Data explained to the assembled senior staff in the Enterprise Observation Lounge. The Asgard core contains the quantum frequency specifications, but we must generate sufficient power to broadcast that frequency across 2 quantum realities simultaneously. This requires us to create a resonance cascade using our sun as an amplifier. Explain in terms humans can understand, Geordi requested, his engineering expertise struggling with Asgard physics that were centuries beyond Federation science. "We turn the sun into a weapon," Data said simply. "We fire a precisely calibrated energy beam into the sun's core, triggering a chain reaction that amplifies the quantum frequency. The sun releases that frequency as radiation, which propagates through the solar system at the speed of light. Every replicator exposed to that radiation will have its programming disrupted and cease function. And the side effect is that the sun becomes unstable," Beverly Crusher said, her medical mind understanding the biological implications. "How long before it goes critical?" "Unknown," Data admitted. "Asgard projections suggest between 5 and 50 years. The timeline depends on variables we cannot predict. Solar activity, quantum field fluctuations, the specific resonance pattern we use. But Captain, even in the best-case scenario, Earth has perhaps 50 years before it becomes uninhabitable. Realistically, I estimate 10 to 20 years. 10 to 20 years. A generation. Children born today would die on a world that wasn't Earth. Families would have to choose between staying on a dying planet or abandoning everything they knew for colony worlds that were barely established. What about evacuation capacity? Picard asked. If we have 20 years, can we evacuate 9 billion people, not using starships alone? Data replied. Even with every vessel in Starfleet dedicated to transport, we could move perhaps 3 billion people before the sun fails. However, Colonel O'Neill has proposed using Stargate technology. The Gate network connects thousands of habitable worlds. If we coordinate with SGC, we could relocate the remaining 6 billion through Gate travel to primitive worlds, Riker pointed out. Most Gate planets are pre-industrial. We'd be dropping billions of advanced humans onto civilizations that aren't ready for contact. The cultural contamination would be catastrophic. The alternative is letting those billions die, Triage said quietly. I understand the Prime Directive. I've defended it my entire career. But this isn't a situation where the Prime Directive applies. This is survival. Picard looked at his crew, seeing the same moral struggle he felt reflected in their faces. The Prime Directive, the Federation's most sacred principle, said you didn't interfere with less advanced civilizations. You observed, documented, but never contaminated their natural development. But now they were discussing dropping 6 billion refugees onto primitive worlds as a matter of survival, rewriting the Prime Directive in the face of extinction. We'll cross that bridge when we reach it, Picard decided. Right now, our priority is building the weapon and coordinating with Colonel O'Neill. Data, how long until the Asgard core weapon is ready? 36 hours, Data replied. However, we must reach the sun to deploy it. The Enterprise must travel from Jupiter to Saul, avoiding replicator detection, and position itself close enough to fire directly into the sun's core. Distance required within 50,000 kilometers of the photosphere. That's suicide, Worf said flatly. Our shields cannot withstand solar radiation at that proximity. We would have approximately 4 minutes before hull integrity fail. 4 minutes is sufficient, Data said. The weapon discharge requires 2 minutes and 37 seconds. That leaves 93 seconds to retreat to safe distance. 93 seconds, Riker repeated. That's cutting it incredibly close. It is the only option, Data replied with android precision. Captain, I have also established continuous communication with Major Carter on 2002 Earth. She is modifying the Antarctic weapons platform to generate the quantum frequency from her timeline. However, she reports increasing replicator presence on their Earth. They have perhaps 36 hours before major population centers are completely overrun. Picard stood, looking out the observation lounge windows at Jupiter's swirling clouds. Somewhere beyond that gas giant, Earth was dying. In another quantum reality, 368 years in the past, another Earth was dying the same death. Two humanities, connected by tragedy. All hands, Picard transmitted shipwide. This is the captain. In 36 hours, we will deploy a weapon designed by the Asgard to eliminate the replicator threat across both quantum timelines. Success means we save billions of lives. Failure means both Earths fall to a mechanical plague. I won't lie to you, this mission will cost us our homeworld. Even if we succeed, Earth will become uninhabitable within years or decades. But we will survive, we will rebuild, and we will ensure that Earth's memory lives on in every colony, every ship, every generation that follows. We are humanity. We endure. Picard out. Meanwhile, Antarctica. Major Samantha Carter hadn't slept in 48 hours. She'd been working non-stop in the Antarctic outpost, modifying ancient weapons systems that were millions of years old, trying to generate a quantum frequency that existed only in theoretical Asgard physics. The control chair, the ancient interface that required the ancient gene to operate, had become her prison. She sat in it continuously, her consciousness merged with the outpost's artificial intelligence, feeling the weapon systems like extensions of her own body. It was exhausting, terrifying, and absolutely necessary. "Sam, you need to rest," Daniel Jackson said, approaching with a protein bar and water. "You've been in that chair for 6 hours straight. Your brain can't handle the neural load indefinitely." "The neural load is the least of our problems," Sam replied, her voice distant, half in the chair, half in reality. "Daniel, I can see the math. The quantum frequency that Captain Picard needs to generate from his timeline has to synchronize perfectly with the frequency I generate from ours. We're talking about nanosecond precision across 368 years of temporal divergence. If we're off by even a fraction of a second, the frequencies cancel each other out and the weapon does nothing." "Can you synchronize that precisely?" Daniel asked.
"I don't know," Sam admitted. "The ancient technology helps. It can calculate quantum probability fields that Federation computers can't touch. But Daniel, we're trying to kill replicators across 2 quantum realities simultaneously using a weapon that requires the energy output of a star. This isn't science, this is science fiction."
"And yet you're doing it," Daniel pointed out, "because you always do the impossible. Remember when they said we couldn't dial an 8th chevron, couldn't reach Atlantis, couldn't defeat the Ori? We did all of that. This is just one more impossible thing." Sam wanted to believe that, wanted to have Daniel's optimism, but she could see the numbers, feel the ancient intelligence calculating probabilities, understand the razor-thin margin between success and catastrophic failure. "How's the surface situation?" Sam asked, needing to focus on something else. Daniel's expression darkened. "Not good. The replicators have consumed 40% of Earth's landmass. 200 million dead. Cities are being evacuated, but there aren't enough transports. People are fleeing into rural areas, but the replicators follow. They're consuming everything. Roads, bridges, power lines. Civilization is collapsing in real time." "And Colonel O'Neill, coordinating military resistance from Peterson Air Force Base," Daniel replied. "But Sam, we're losing. Every conventional weapon we use just gives the replicators more material. The only thing that works is the ancient drones, and we can only fire those for another 12 hours before the ZPM depletes completely." 12 hours. Half a day. After that, Earth's only effective weapon went offline and the replicators would overrun everything. "Then we fire the quantum weapon in 12 hours, Sam decided. "I'm transmitting new synchronization protocols to the Enterprise. We can't wait the full 36 hours. If we do, there won't be anyone left to save." "Can the Enterprise be ready in 12 hours? Daniel asked. "They'll have to be," Sam said, "because the alternative is extinction." She returned her full attention to the ancient chair, feeling its intelligence merge with hers, accessing weapon systems that had defended Earth millions of years ago when the ancients first visited this planet. The drones, the energy shields, the quantum frequency generator, all designed to stop threats the ancients had faced. The replicators were one of those threats. The ancients had created them as weapons, then realized their mistake too late. Now, millions of years later, the replicators had returned to consume the descendants of the very beings who'd seeded humanity across the galaxy. History coming full circle. Mistakes catching up. The sins of the creators visited upon their children. "Sam," Colonel O'Neill's voice came over her radio, "we're reading increased replicator activity heading toward Antarctica. They've figured out we have a weapon here. ETA 4 hours. We're sending every available unit to defend the outpost, but if they break through..." "They won't," Sam interrupted. "Because in 4 hours, this outpost is going to generate a quantum frequency that kills every replicator on both Earths simultaneously. I'm moving up the timeline. We fire in 12 hours. Can you be ready?" O'Neill asked. "I have to be," Sam replied. "Sir, tell Captain Picard we're accelerating the schedule. The Enterprise needs to reach firing position in 12 hours. not 36. 12. If they can't make it, they'll make it, O'Neill said with absolute certainty. Because that's what humans do. We make impossible deadlines. Enterprise out. The transmission ended. Sam sat in the ancient chair, feeling the weight of two timelines resting on her ability to calculate quantum probabilities precisely enough to synchronize weapons across threat. No pressure. Around her, the Antarctic outpost hummed with power, preparing to fire ancient drones one last time, to defend itself long enough for Sam to complete the most complicated calculation any human had ever attempted. 12 hours. Then either humanity survived or it became extinct across two quantum realities. Sam closed her eyes, merged deeper with the ancient intelligence, and began calculating how to kill a plague while sacrificing a planet. USS Enterprise D, Jupiter orbit. Captain Picard stood in the observation lounge, staring at the Asgard core's holographic interface. The crystalline sphere pulsed with alien light, displaying equations that made even Data's positronic brain work overtime to comprehend. The weapon is theoretically sound, Data reported, his golden eyes tracking streams of Asgard mathematics. However, implementation presents significant challenges. We must generate a quantum frequency that disrupts replicator programming at a subatomic level. This frequency must propagate through normal space-time and across quantum realities to affect both 2370 and 200. How do we generate that much power? Geordi asked, his visor processing the technical specifications. We're talking about energy levels that dwarf anything the Federation has ever attempted. We use a star, Data replied simply. Specifically, Saul, we fire a precisely calibrated beam into the sun's core, triggering a fusion cascade that amplifies the quantum frequency. The sun becomes a massive transmitter, broadcasting the anti-replicator signal throughout the solar system. The room went silent. You want to weaponize our sun, Riker said slowly. Turn it into a giant replicator-killing weapon. Correct? Data confirmed. The Asgard core contains detailed specifications. The process is elegant. We inject exotic particles into the sun's core, creating quantum resonance patterns that amplify our signal by a factor of 10. Every replicator within the solar system will be exposed to lethal radiation within 8 minutes, the time it takes for light to travel from sun to Earth. And the side effects? Beverly Crusher asked, though her medical intuition already knew the answer would be terrible. Data's pause was telling. The quantum cascade will destabilize the sun's fusion reactions. The Asgard projections indicate solar output will increase by 2 to 3% immediately, then continue rising. Within 10 to 20 years, Earth will become uninhabitable. Within 50 years, the sun may go supernova. My God, Tri breathed. We'd be killing Earth to save it. Not just Federation Earth, Picard said quietly, understanding the full scope of Thor's final gift. The quantum frequency affects both timelines. If we fire this weapon, we doom both Earths. 23070 and 202. Two versions of humanity's homeworld sacrificed to stop the replicators. Worf stood, his Klingon sense of honor struggling with the mathematics of genocide. This is not an honorable victory. We trade one death for another. The replicators will die, but so will Earth. What have we gained? Time, Picard replied. The replicators will consume Earth in 47 days. This weapon gives us 10 to 20 years to evacuate, years to save billions of lives. It's not a good choice, Worf, but it's the only choice that doesn't end in extinction. Captain, Data interjected. I am receiving a transmission from Major Carter on 2002 Earth. She has analyzed Thor's specifications from her timeline and reached the same conclusions. She is requesting an emergency conference with you and Colonel O'Neill. Put them through, Picard ordered. The holographic display shifted, showing a communication interface that bridged 38 years of quantum divergence. O'Neill's voice came through first, carrying that distinctive dry humor despite the apocalypse. Captain, tell me Data got the math wrong. Tell me there's some Federation technobabble that makes this plan less insane. I wish I could, Colonel, Picard replied. But Commander Data's analysis matches what Major Carter has discovered. The Asgard weapon will work. It will kill every replicator in both solar systems. The cost is both our Earths. Carter's voice joined the conversation, exhausted but determined. Sirs, I've been running simulations with the ancient technology here in Antarctica. The quantum frequency weapon requires perfect synchronization between our timelines. Captain Picard fires from 2370, I fire from 2002, and both beams must hit our respective suns within 0.3 nanoseconds of each other. Any deviation, and the quantum resonance fails. Can you achieve that precision? O'Neill asked. Honestly, sir, I don't know, Carter admitted. We're trying to synchronize weapons across a quantum divergence using technology from 3 extinct civilizations. The Ancients, the Asgard, and whatever the Replicators' original creators were. This is beyond anything I've ever attempted. Then we make it possible, Picard said firmly. Major Carter, you have access to ancient technology that can calculate quantum probabilities the Federation can't touch. Commander Data has Asgard knowledge that describes the exact specifications. Between you, you'll find a way to synchronize. There's another problem, Geordi added. Even if we can synchronize the weapons, we need to physically reach the sun to fire. The Enterprise needs to get within 50,000 kilometers of Sol's photosphere. That close, we'll have maybe 4 minutes before hull integrity fails from radiation exposure. The weapon discharge takes 2 minutes and 37 seconds. Data noted. That leaves 93 seconds to retreat to safe distance. The margins are uncomfortable. Uncomfortable, Riker repeated. That's one way to describe certain death. O'Neill's voice cut through the technical discussion. Folks, I'm gonna simplify this. We've got 2 options. Option 1, do nothing. Let the replicators consume both Earths in 47 days, everyone dies. Option 2, fire Thor's weapon, kill the replicators, doom Earth but buy 10-20 years to evacuate everyone. I'm not a math genius, but option 2 sounds better. Colonel O'Neill is correct, Picard said. This isn't a debate about whether to use the weapon, it's about how to implement it successfully. The moral calculus is simple: we save as many lives as possible, even if it means killing our planet. Daniel Jackson's voice came through, his archaeological passion evident. Earth isn't just a planet, it's the birthplace of humanity. Every civilization that ever existed, every person who ever lived, they're all connected to Earth. We'd be destroying that, erasing it. No, Picard corrected gently. We'd be transforming it. Earth, as a place, may die, but Earth, as an idea, the cradle of humanity, the source of everything we are, that continues. In every colony we establish, in every ship we name Enterprise, in every person who looks up at the stars and dreams, Earth lives through us. The silence that followed carried weight, the combined grief of 2 timelines accepting that their homeworld was already lost, whether to replicators or to the weapon that would save them. All right, O'Neill finally said. What's the plan? And please tell me it involves more than just fly at the sun and hope we don't die. Data pulled up a holographic tactical display showing both solar systems. The plan requires 3 phases. Phase 1, preparation. The Enterprise must modify its deflector array to generate the quantum frequency beam. Major Carter must modify the ancient weapons platform in Antarctica to do the same. Estimated time through Phase 2, approach. The Enterprise must reach firing position near Saul while avoiding replicator detection. This requires fighting through or circumventing the replicator blockade around Earth. Simultaneously, Major Carter must defend the Antarctic outpost from replicator assault. Estimated time 12 hours. Phase 3, execution. Both weapons fire simultaneously at our respective suns. Quantum frequency propagates through both solar systems at light speed. Every replicator within 8 light minutes dies. Both suns destabilize. Both Earths begin dying. Estimated time 2 minutes 37 seconds. And after that? Troy asked quietly. After that we evacuate, Picard said. 9 billion people from 270 Earth. 6 billion from 202 Earth. 15 billion humans who need new homes on new worlds. We'll coordinate through the Stargate network. Colonel O'Neill's gate addresses will give us access to thousands of habitable planets. It will take years, maybe a decade. But we'll save everyone we can. Not everyone, Beverly Crusher pointed out. Data's projections show we can evacuate maybe 80% before the sun makes Earth uninhabitable. That leaves 3 billion people from both timelines who won't make it out. The number hung in the air like a death sentence. Then we save 12 billion instead of losing 15 billion, O'Neill said, his voice hard. I've made shitty choices before, Doctor. I've sacrificed teams to save missions, lost battles to win wars. This is just another shitty choice on a bigger scale. We do it because the alternative is extinction. Picard nodded. Agreed. We begin Phase 1 immediately. Commander Data, work with Major Carter to finalize synchronization protocols. Geordi, you have 36 hours to modify our deflector array. Worf, prepare tactical plans for reaching the sun. Everyone else, he paused, looking at his crew, prepare to say goodbye to Earth. USS Enterprise D 32 hours, until weapon deployment. The Enterprise's engineering section had become a fusion of 3 alien technologies that had no business working together. Asgard quantum frequency generators, Federation deflector components, and improvised power relays created a Frankenstein's monster of a weapon system that made Geordi LaForge's stomach churn every time he looked at it. This is insane, Geordi muttered, running diagnostics for the 15th time. We're routing 1018 watts through systems designed for 1015. That's 1,000-fold overload. The deflector array will melt. It will hold for 2 minutes and 37 seconds, Data replied with android certainty, working alongside his chief engineer. After that, the deflector array will indeed catastrophically fail. However, by then we will have already fired the weapon, or died trying, Geordi added. Data, we're about to fly into a star. Even with shields at maximum, we'll be taking radiation levels that would cook a starship in minutes. Are you sure we can survive long enough to fire? Data paused, his positronic brain running probability calculations. Define sure. If you mean absolute certainty, then no. If you mean reasonable confidence based on available data, then yes. I calculate a 73% probability of successful weapon deployment, and the other we die in various unpleasant ways involving radiation exposure, hull breach, or core containment failure. Geordi laughed despite everything. You know, most people sugarcoat bad news. I find that sugarcoating reduces informational accuracy, Data replied seriously. Then, after a pause. However, I should note that even if we fail, Major Carter's weapon will still fire from 2002 Earth. One of our timelines will survive. Small comfort when we're vaporized by a star. Captain Picard's voice came over the comm. All senior staff, report to the bridge. We're approaching the Replicator blockade. Geordi and Data made their way to the bridge, where the view screen showed a tactical nightmare. Between the Enterprise's position near Jupiter and their target trajectory toward Saul, thousands of Replicator contacts formed a defensive perimeter. The mechanical organisms had learned they weren't just consuming anymore. They were defending their claimed territory. Analysis, Picard requested. I am detecting 4,721 individual Replicator clusters, Data reported. Additionally, 3 Replicator processing stations have been constructed from consumed Federation vessels. The stations are generating new Replicator blocks at a rate of approximately 10,000 units per hour. Captain, the blockade is growing stronger while we prepare. Can we go around? Riker asked. Find an alternate route to Saul that avoids the heaviest concentrations. Negative, Data replied. Any alternate route adds 8-12 hours to our travel time. We would miss our synchronized firing window with Major Carter. We must go through the blockade. Worf stepped forward, his tactical instincts in full focus. Then we fight through. Captain, I recommend we summon every available Starfleet vessel. Attack the blockade with overwhelming force. Create a corridor for the Enterprise to reach Saul. How many ships do we have? Picard asked. 41 vessels remain in the Saul system, Worf replied. Everything else was destroyed or evacuated during the initial Replicator assault. I calculate we need at least 30 ships to engage the blockade while the Enterprise proceeds to firing position. 30 ships, Picard repeated quietly. 30 crews. Thousands of people, sent to die so we can reach the sun. They're already dying, Worf said bluntly. Every hour we wait, more Replicators are created. More processing stations come online. We're hemorrhaging time, Captain. Better to sacrifice 30 ships now than lose everything in 40. Picard wanted to argue. Wanted to find a tactical solution that didn't involve mass sacrifice. But Worf was right. They were out of good options. Hail Admiral Janeway on the Voyager, Picard ordered. I want to speak with her directly. Admiral Catherine Janeway appeared on the view screen moments later. She'd aged since returning from the Delta Quadrant 7 years fighting Borg, species 8047-2, and hostile space had left marks that command couldn't erase. But her eyes were sharp, her voice steady. "Captain Picard," Janeway said. "I'm assuming this isn't a social call. Admiral, we need to punch through the replicator blockade to reach firing position," Picard explained. "It will require a coordinated assault, multiple ships engaging simultaneously to create a corridor for the Enterprise." Janeway studied him for a moment. "How many ships are we talking? 30? Picard admitted. "Maybe more. The casualties will be significant." "Casualties," Janeway repeated. "That's a polite word for suicide mission. Jean-Luc, you're asking me to send Starfleet officers to their deaths." "I'm asking you to save Earth," Picard corrected. "Admiral, in 36 hours we fire a weapon that kills the replicators, but dooms our planet. If we fail to reach firing position, Earth dies anyway, consumed by machines in 47 days. Those 30 ships give us a chance. Their sacrifice means something." Janeway was quiet for several seconds. When she spoke again, her voice carried the weight of command decisions that would haunt her forever. "I'll lead the assault personally. Voyager and 29 other ships will engage the blockade. That gives you a 12-hour window to reach Saul. Don't waste it." "Admiral, you don't have to." "Yes, I do," Janeway interrupted. "I spent 7 years in the Delta Quadrant getting my crew home. 94 people survived that journey when we should have all died a dozen times over. If Voyager's death saves Earth, then it's a fair trade. Just make sure our sacrifice means something, Jean-Luc. Make sure this weapon works." "You have my word," Picard said. The transmission ended. Picard stood on his bridge, feeling the weight of 30 ships, thousands of lives about to be spent like currency in a war against mathematics. "Captain," Troy said quietly, her empathic senses detecting his emotional state, "you're not responsible for this. The replicators are. You're trying to save as many people as possible." "Doesn't make it easier," Picard replied. "Counselor, how is the crew holding up?" "They're terrified," Troy admitted, "but they're also determined. They know what's at stake. They trust you to make the right choices. I hope their trust is justified." Peterson Air Force Base, 2002 Earth, 32 hours until weapon deployment. Colonel Jack O'Neill hadn't slept in 48 hours. His eyes burned, his body ached, and he was pretty sure he'd consumed enough coffee to kill a lesser man. But sleep was a luxury Earth couldn't afford. "Sir, we've got a problem," Major Carter said, entering the makeshift command center with a tablet showing data that made Jack's headache worse. "Of course we do," Jack replied. "What fresh hell are we facing now?" "The replicators are massing around Antarctica," Carter explained, pulling up satellite imagery. "They've figured out we have something important there, probably detected the ancient technology's power signature. I'm reading approximately 50,000 replicator units converging on the outpost's location. ETA, 18 hours. 50,000, Jack repeated. "And we have, 3,000 troops defending the outpost. 2,500 after yesterday's casualties," Carter corrected grimly. "Sir, we can't hold against those numbers. Not for 18 hours. The ancient weapons platform can fire drones, but we'd burn through the ZPM's remaining power in the first hour of combat. Then we need reinforcements," Jack decided. "Hammond, what assets do we have?" General Hammond pulled up a global map showing military deployments. "Not many. The replicators have consumed 40% of Earth's landmass. Military forces are scattered, fighting defensive actions across 6 continents. I can pull maybe another 1,000 troops from nearby bases, but that's it." "Not enough," Jack said. "We need something bigger. Something that'll make the replicators think twice about attacking Antarctica." "Sir," Daniel Jackson said, looking up from his laptop where he'd been researching ancient databases. "What about the Dakara superweapon?" Everyone turned to look at him. "The what now?" Jack asked. "Dakara," Daniel repeated. "It's an ancient facility in the Milky Way, home to a weapon that can restructure matter on a planetary scale. The Go-Old control it now, but according to these ancient records, the weapon was originally designed to fight the replicators." Carter's eyes lit up with scientific excitement. "Daniel, that's brilliant. If we could activate Dakara's weapon, we could target replicators on Earth without affecting humans. It operates on different principles than energy weapons. It literally rewrites matter at a subatomic level. There's just one tiny problem, Jack pointed out. The Goa'uld aren't exactly friendly. They're not gonna let us waltz in and use their super weapon. Then we don't ask permission, Teal'c said, his staff weapon already in hand. We take it. By force if necessary. O'Neill, I can contact the Free Jaffa Rebellion. Many of my former comrades would aid us in assaulting Dakara. Hammond looked skeptical. Colonel, even if we could take Dakara, how does that help Antarctica? The weapon might target replicators globally, but it won't stop the assault on the ancient outpost. It buys us time, Carter explained. If we activate Dakara 18 hours from now, right when the replicators attack Antarctica, we hit them with a weapon they can't adapt to. Kill enough of them that our defending forces can hold out until I fire the quantum frequency weapon. Jack considered it. The plan was insane. Assault a heavily fortified Goa'uld facility, activate an ancient superweapon, use it to kill replicators on Earth, while simultaneously preparing to weaponize the sun. It was the kind of plan that got people killed. It was also their only option. All right, Jack decided. Teal'c, gate to wherever the Free Jaffa are gathering. Tell them we need warriors for a suicide mission to save Earth. Hammond, I need every available SG team gating to Dakara in 12 hours. Carter, you stay in Antarctica and prep the quantum frequency weapon. Daniel and I will coordinate the Dakara assault. Sir, you're leading the assault personally, Hammond asked. Someone has to, Jack replied, and I'm not sending my people somewhere I'm not willing to go. We've got 18 hours to take Dakara, activate the weapon and save Antarctica. Let's make it count. Dakara, 6 hours until replicator assault on Antarctica. The Stargate on Dakara activated with its familiar kawoosh, and Colonel Jack O'Neill stepped through into a war zone. The planet's surface was a nightmare of Goa'uld architecture and Free Jaffa rebellion. Massive stone temples that predated human civilization, now pockmarked with staff weapon fire and littered with bodies. Jaffa warriors in armor fought Goa'uld forces in brutal hand-to-hand combat while SG teams provided covering fire. O'Neill, Teal'c emerged from the chaos, his staff weapon smoking from continuous use. We have secured the gate, but the temple housing the Dakar weapon is heavily defended. Baal has sent 3 motherships to protect the facility. Of course he has, Jack muttered, because nothing on this mission can be easy. What's our plan? Master Brotak leads the main assault on the temple's eastern entrance, Teal'c explained, gesturing toward a massive pyramid structure in the distance. We will approach from the west, using surprise to bypass Baal's defenses. Bypass how? Daniel asked, adjusting his glasses nervously as a staff weapon blast sailed overhead. Through the ancient tunnel systems, Teal'c replied. The Goa'uld do not know they exist. The passages will take us directly beneath the weapon chamber. Jack looked at the temple, easily 500 meters tall, crawling with Jaffa loyalists, protected by energy shields and automated defense systems. It was suicide. Well, Jack said, checking his P-90's ammunition. I've had worse ideas. Let's go steal a super weapon. The next 3 hours were a blur of combat. SG-1 plus 20 Jaffa warriors moved through ancient tunnels beneath Dakara's surface, fighting through automated defenses that had protected this facility for millennia. The ancients had built well. Their security systems still functioned after 10 million years, using energy weapons that made gold staff weapons look primitive. These defenses were designed to stop replicators, Daniel observed, examining ancient writing on the tunnel walls. The energy frequency is specifically tuned to disrupt their quantum cohesion. It's actually quite elegant. Save the history lesson for later, Jack shouted, returning fire at an automated defense turret. Right now, we need to survive. They reached the weapon chamber through sheer determination and acceptable losses. Only 3 Jaffa warriors died, which Jack considered a miracle given the circumstances. The chamber itself was massive, a cathedral-sized space dominated by a crystalline structure that pulsed with power. The Dakara weapon. It's beautiful, Daniel breathed, his archaeological passion evident despite the situation. It's a gun, Jack corrected. A really big gun that we need to fire at Earth in. He checked his watch. 3 hours. Carter, how's it look? Sam Carter's voice came through his radio, transmitted across light years via ancient communication technology. Sir, I'm reading the Dakara weapon's power signature from Antarctica. You've successfully accessed the control systems. I'm uploading targeting parameters now. The weapon will fire a subatomic restructuring wave that targets replicator programming specifically. Anything with replicator code in its molecular structure will be destroyed. Everything else, humans, plants, animals, will be unaffected. How long to charge? Jack asked. 2 hours, Carter replied. And sir, there's something you need to know. The Dakara weapon draws power from the planet's core. Firing it will cause massive tectonic instability. Dakara might not survive. Will Earth survive? Jack demanded. Yes, sir. The weapon will kill approximately 80% of replicators on 202 Earth. That buys us enough time to hold Antarctica until I can fire the quantum frequency weapon. Then charge it, Jack ordered. I don't care about Dakara. I care about Earth. Daniel looked stricken. Jack, this planet is archaeologically priceless. The ancients built their first civilization here. If Dakara is destroyed, we lose invaluable historical... Daniel, Jack interrupted, his voice harder than intended. In 3 hours, 50,000 replicators attack Antarctica. If they succeed, Carter can't fire the quantum weapon. Both Earths die. Everyone. 15 billion people. I'll trade one planet's history for 15 billion lives. Single. Time. Daniel opened his mouth to argue, closed it, nodded. You're right. I'm sorry. Charge the weapon. The next 2 hours were tense. SG-1 and their Jaffa allies defended the weapon chamber against increasingly desperate Goa'uld assaults. The Hull had figured out what they were doing and was throwing everything at them. Jaffa death squads, automated defenses, even suicide bombers, but they held. 1 minute to firing, Carter's voice announced over the radio. Sir, you need to evacuate Dakara. The tectonic instability will reach critical levels seconds after weapon discharge. Everyone back to the gate, Jack ordered. Double time. SG-1 and the surviving Jaffa warriors ran through the ancient tunnels, racing against a countdown they couldn't see but knew was coming. Behind them, the Dakara weapon charged to critical levels, drawing so much power from the planet's core that the ground literally shook beneath their feet. They reached the Stargate with 15 seconds to spare. Teal'c dialed Earth. The wormhole engaged, and everyone dove through just as the weapon fired. Jack didn't see what happened to Dakara, but he felt it, a ripple in space-time that made his teeth ache, that made reality itself shudder, that carried across light years to strike Earth with restructuring energy that rewrote matter at a quantum level. They stumbled out of the Stargate at Peterson Air Force Base to find General Hammond waiting with news. It worked, Hammond said simply. The Dakara weapon hit Earth 30 seconds ago. We're reading massive replicator casualties. Estimates suggest 70 to 80% destroyed. The survivors are disorganized, their quantum cohesion disrupted. Colonel, you bought us time. How much time? Jack asked. Major Carter reports the replicator assault on Antarctica has been reduced from 50,000 units to approximately 8,000. Still significant, but our defending forces can hold that. Sir, you saved the ancient outpost. Jack leaned against the wall, exhaustion finally catching up with him. They'd assaulted a Goa'uld facility, stolen an ancient superweapon, destroyed an archaeologically priceless planet, and saved Earth, all in a day's work. Carter, Jack said into his radio, you've got your time. Don't waste it. Fire that quantum weapon and kill every last replicator in both timelines. USS Enterprise D. Approaching Saul. 30 minutes until weapon deployment. The view screen showed a vision of hell. Between the Enterprise and the Sun, 30 Federation starships engaged thousands of replicators in desperate combat. The USS Voyager led the assault, Janeway's ship carving through replicator swarms with sustained phaser fire, buying seconds at enormous cost. Voyager's shields at 40%, data reported. The USS Defiant has been consumed. The Excelsior is venting plasma. Captain, the fleet is suffering catastrophic casualties. Hold course, Picard ordered, his voice steady despite watching his colleagues die. We're almost through. The Enterprise punched through the replicator blockade like a knife through flesh, bleeding, damaged, but moving forward. Behind them, the 30 ships of the assault fleet were being torn apart. Captain, Admiral Janeway is hailing, Worf announced. Janeway appeared on screen, her bridge burning around her. Jean-Luc, we can't hold them much longer. Voyager's shields are failing. You need to go. Now, Admiral. That's an order, Captain Janeway interrupted. You've got 12 minutes to reach firing position. Don't waste it mourning us. Just make sure our deaths mean something. Voyager out. The transmission cut. On sensors, Picard watched Voyager's shields collapse. Watched replicators swarm her hull. Watched a ship that had survived 7 years in the Delta Quadrant die in Saul's system, consumed by machines. Admiral Catherine Janeway, who'd brought her crew home against impossible odds, died defending Earth. Captain, we've cleared the blockade, data reported. Distance to firing position 200,000 kilometers. Time to position 8 minutes. All hands, battle stations, Picard ordered. Red alert. Shields to maximum. Prepare to enter the sun's corona. The Enterprise dove towards Saul, her shields screaming under radiation levels that would kill any unprotected human instantly. The hull temperature climbed, 500 degrees Celsius. 1,000. Warning klaxons blared as systems began failing from heat stress. Entering firing position, data announced. Distance to photosphere 50,000 kilometers. Hull integrity at 73% and falling. Major Carter, this is Captain Picard. Picard transmitted across 368 years. We're in position. Are you ready? Carter's voice came back, strained. Affirmative, Captain. The Antarctic outpost is under assault, but the weapon is charged. Synchronization protocols are locked. We fire on your mark. Countdown, Picard ordered. 10 seconds. The bridge fell silent. On the view screen, the sun filled their entire field of vision. A wall of nuclear fire that would vaporize the Enterprise if they stayed here 60 seconds longer than necessary. 9. In engineering, Geordi watched power readouts climb to impossible levels. The deflector array glowed white-hot, ready to discharge more energy than a photon torpedo spread. 8. On 2002 Earth, Sam Carter sat in the ancient control chair. Her consciousness merged with alien technology, feeling the weapon charge through systems that predated human civilization. 7. Around Antarctica, 8,000 replicators assaulted the defensive perimeter. Human soldiers died buying seconds for Carter to complete her calculations. 6. On the Enterprise bridge, every officer understood this was it, the moment that would save or doom 2 versions of humanity. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, fire! The Enterprise discharged the quantum frequency weapon directly into Saul's core. Simultaneously, 368 years in the past, Sam Carter fired the ancient platform's weapon into 200. For 2.37 seconds, both suns became something more than stars. They became quantum transmitters, broadcasting a frequency that rewrote reality at a subatomic level. The frequency propagated at light speed. Every replicator within 8 light minutes simply stopped. Their quantum programming, the fundamental code that made them function, disrupted, corrupted, destroyed. Trillions of mechanical organisms across 2 timelines died instantly. On Earth orbit, 23070, the massive replicator processing stations collapsed into inert metal. On Earth's surface, 2002, the replicator assault on Antarctica halted mid-attack, thousands of mechanical organisms freezing before falling apart. The replicators were dead. Humanity had won, but victory came at a price. Captain, solar output increasing, data reported. Core temperature up 2.3%. Magnetic field destabilizing. The Asgard projections were correct. The sun is dying. On the view screen, Saul looked the same. But sensors told the truth. The quantum cascade had triggered changes that would kill Earth in decades. Get us out of here, Picard ordered. Maximum impulse. Full power to shields. The Enterprise turned away from the sun, her hull glowing red-hot, systems failing but alive. Behind them, Saul continued its slow death, a star sacrificed to save 2 versions of humanity. Captain Picard, Carter's voice came through, weak with exhaustion. The weapon worked. All replicator contacts on 202 Earth are gone. We're detecting solar instability here too. Sir, we did it. We saved both Earths. At a cost, Picard replied quietly. Major, how long before your sun makes Earth uninhabitable? Unknown, sir, Carter admitted. But preliminary estimates suggest 10 to 15 years. We have time to evacuate. 10 to 15 years. For 202 Earth, that was enough. They could evacuate through the Stargate network, relocating billions to other worlds. But Mr. Data, Picard asked, how long until our sun becomes lethal? Data's answer carried finality. Based on current solar degradation rates, 48 hours. Captain, the quantum cascade is progressing faster in our timeline. The sun will expand into a red giant within 2 days. Earth will be consumed. The bridge went silent. 2 days. Not decades. Not years. 48 hours to evacuate 9 billion people or watch them burn. All hands, Picard transmitted, his voice steady despite the impossibility. This is the captain. The replicators are dead. We have saved humanity. But Earth is dying. We have 48 hours to evacuate the entire planet. Every ship, every transport, every method of evacuation, we use it all. No one gets left behind. Make it so. The Enterprise limped toward Earth at maximum speed, racing against a clock that couldn't be stopped. They'd won the war, but the price was still being calculated. USS Enterprise D. Saul system. The quantum frequency weapon fired. For 2.37 seconds, the Enterprise discharged more energy than a photon torpedo spread, a precisely calibrated beam of exotic particles and quantum harmonics that struck Saul's core and triggered a fusion cascade that rewrote the fundamental physics of the star. Captain Picard watched the view screen as the sun changed. Not visibly, human eyes couldn't perceive quantum frequencies. But the sensors told the story. Saul's core temperature spiked by 2.3%. Magnetic field lines twisted into impossible configurations, and a wave of restructured radiation began expanding outward at the speed of light. Frequency propagating data reported, his android fingers dancing across the console. Wave front will reach Earth orbit in 8 minutes. 17 seconds. Captain, I am also detecting. He paused, golden eyes widening. Sir, Major Carter has fired her weapon simultaneously. The quantum frequencies are synchronizing perfectly across both timelines. On Earth, 2370, 9 billion people went about their lives unaware that in 8 minutes every replicator in their solar system would die, and their sun would begin a decades-long death spiral. On Earth, 2002, 6 billion people continued fighting for survival, unaware that salvation and doom were arriving simultaneously. Get us away from the sun, Picard ordered. Maximum impulse. All power to shields and engines. We have 93 seconds before hull integrity fails. The Enterprise turned, her damaged hull screaming under thermal stress. The shields, already weakened from fighting through the replicator blockade, flickered under solar radiation levels that would vaporize an unprotected human in milliseconds. 60 seconds to hull failure, data counted down. Current velocity 0.3 c. We will clear the danger zone with approximately 12 seconds to spare. That's cutting it close, Riker muttered, gripping his chair as the ship shuddered. 40 seconds. On the view screen, Saul looked unchanged, a yellow star burning steadily, indistinguishable from the sun that had warmed Earth for 4.5, but sensors revealed the truth. The quantum cascade was spreading through the star's core, destabilizing fusion reactions, triggering changes that would doom the planet humanity called home. 20 seconds. The bridge lights flickered. The temperature climbed, 35 degrees Celsius, 40-45. Environmental controls couldn't keep up with the heat bleeding through failing shields. 10 seconds. Hull integrity at 37%. Captain, we will not clear the danger zone in time. I recommend emergency warp. Negative, Picard said firmly. Warp drive this close to a star could trigger a subspace rupture. We ride it out. 5 seconds. The Enterprise's hull glowed red-hot. Warning klaxons blared. Systems failed across the ship. Replicators offline. Artificial gravity fluctuating. Backup generators straining to keep life support functional. Hull integrity at 18%. And then they were clear. The radiation levels dropped. The shields stabilized. The Enterprise limped away from Saul, damaged but alive. Mr. Data, Picard said, his voice steady despite everything. Report on the quantum frequency. Did it work? Data's fingers flew across his console, pulling sensor data from across the Saul system. Then he looked up, and something like relief crossed his android features. Captain, the frequency has reached Earth orbit. Every replicator contact is gone. The processing stations have ceased function. The orbital swarms have deactivated. The ground-based clusters on Earth's surface are shutting down. Sir, we did it. The replicators are dead. The bridge erupted in cheers, exhausted, desperate cheers from officers who'd been fighting a losing war for days and had just witnessed the impossible victory. But Picard didn't cheer. He was watching the solar telemetry data had pulled up on the main view screen. Mr. Data, Picard said quietly, cutting through the celebration. What is Saul's current status? The cheering died. Data's expression shifted to something approaching dread, as close as an android could get. Captain, solar core temperature has increased 2.3% and continues rising. Magnetic field configuration is destabilizing. Radiation output across all wavelengths is elevated. The quantum cascade has triggered a chain reaction that cannot be stopped. How long? Picard demanded. How long until Saul becomes uninhabitable for Earth? Data ran calculations, his positronic brain processing thousands of variables. When he spoke, his voice carried finality. 48 hours. In 2 days, solar radiation will increase to levels that make Earth's surface lethal. Within 1 week, the oceans will begin boiling. Within 2 weeks, the atmosphere will burn away. Captain, Earth is dying. The bridge went silent. Not the silence of shock, the silence of mathematical certainty. They'd known this was coming. Thor had warned them. The Asgard core had specified the cost. But knowing and experiencing were different things. Contact Major Carter on 2002 Earth. Picard ordered. I need to know their status. Data established the quantum communication link. Captain, Major Carter is responding. However, there is significant interference. The quantum frequency discharge disrupted subspace communications across both timelines. Sam Carter's voice came through, weak and distant. Captain Picard, weapon successful. Replicators eliminated. But sir, O'Neill, the ancient chair, massive neural feedback static consumed her transmission. Major Carter, repeat, Picard said urgently. What happened to Colonel O'Neill? The response came fragmented. Unconscious. Medical team. Don't know if he'll. Solar instability detected here too. Maybe 10 years before. Evacuate through Stargate network. The communication failed completely. Data. Can you restore the link? Picard asked. Negative, Captain. The quantum frequency has created interference patterns that will take several hours to dissipate. We will not be able to contact 202 Earth until then. Picard nodded, filing away his concern for O'Neill. Right now, he had 9 billion people on his own Earth who needed evacuation in 48 hours. All hands, this is the captain, Picard transmitted shipwide. The replicators are dead. We have achieved victory. But the cost is Earth itself. Saul is destabilizing. We have 48 hours to evacuate the entire planet before solar radiation makes the surface uninhabitable. Every ship, every transport, every available resource, we dedicate it to evacuation. No one gets left behind. Picard out. He turned to his crew. Mr. Data, calculate evacuation capacity. How many people can we save in 48 hours? Commander Riker, contact every Starfleet vessel, every civilian transport, every ship in the sector. We need everything that can carry passengers. Worf, coordinate with planetary defense forces. We need organized evacuation zones. Counselor Troy, prepare psychological support teams. People will panic when they realize what's happening. His crew moved with practiced efficiency, but Picard could see the weight settling on them. They'd saved humanity from the replicators only to doom humanity's homeworld. Captain, Data said after several minutes of calculation, I have preliminary evacuation projections. They are not encouraging. Show me. Data displayed the numbers on the main view screen. Earth evacuation capacity, 48. Population requiring evacuation. Available transport vessels, average capacity per ship, 5,000 persons. Total evacuation capacity per trip. Travel time to nearest safe colony, Vulcan, 6 hours round trip. Number of trips possible in 48 hours. Total evacuation capacity. Projected casualties, 9. The numbers hung on the view screen like a death sentence. We can save 50 million, Riker said quietly. Out of 9 billion, that's not even 1%. We're not giving up, Picard said firmly. Data, what if we use the transporters? Beam people directly to colonies without using ships. Transporter range is limited to 40,000 kilometers, Data replied. We would need relay stations positioned throughout the Sol system to extend range to habitable colonies. Constructing such a network would require weeks. We have 48 hours. What about the Stargate network? Geordi suggested via comm from engineering. Captain, Colonel O'Neill's people use gates to travel instantly across light years. If we could access their gate network, we could evacuate people to other planets without needing ships. We don't have gate addresses, Picard pointed out, and we can't contact 202 Earth to request them until subspace interference clears. Then we wait, Geordi said. Captain, if we can establish contact with SGC within the next few hours, get their gate addresses, we could potentially evacuate billions through gate travel. It's our best option. Picard considered it. The Stargate network was 202. Earth's technology, ancient devices that created wormholes connecting thousands of worlds. If the Federation could access even a fraction of those destinations, make it our priority, Picard decided. Data. Monitor subspace interference. The moment we can re-establish contact with Major Carter, I want coordinates for every habitable planet in the Stargate network. In the meantime, we begin conventional evacuation immediately. Every person we can save. We say, "Aye, sir," Data replied. However, Captain, there is another consideration. Mars, Luna, and the orbital stations around Earth contain an additional 3 billion humans. They face the same solar radiation threat. We must evacuate them as well. 12 billion people total. 48 hours to save them all. With capacity to save maybe 50 million conventionally. The mathematics were impossible. We'll find a way, Picard said, though he didn't know how. We always do. Antarctic outpost. Major Samantha Carter stumbled out of the ancient control chair, her legs barely supporting her weight after 6 hours of continuous neural interface. Around her, the Antarctic outpost's power systems were shutting down, the ZPM depleted, the ancient drones offline, the quantum frequency weapon fired. They'd won. But the cost? Colonel O'Neill, Carter shouted, seeing Jack collapse beside the chair where he'd been standing. Medical personnel rushed forward, but Carter reached him first. Jack's eyes were closed, his breathing shallow. Blood trickled from his nose and ears, signs of massive neural trauma from the ancient chair's feedback. The weapon discharge had channeled through him as much as through the ancient technology, and his human brain hadn't been designed to handle that kind of energy. "Get him to the infirmary," Carter ordered. Now, the medics loaded Jack onto a stretcher and rushed him toward the outpost's medical bay. Carter tried to follow, but her legs gave out. Daniel Jackson caught her before she hit the floor. "Easy, Sam," Daniel said. "You've been in that chair for hours. Your brain needs rest." "The replicators," Carter managed. "Did it work?" "Are they dead?" Daniel confirmed. "Every replicator on Earth just stopped, shut down completely." "Sam, you did it. You saved Earth." Carter wanted to feel relief, wanted to celebrate, but something was wrong. She could feel it in the way the ancient outpost systems were behaving, in the readings she'd glimpsed before leaving the chair. "Daniel, help me to a computer terminal," Carter said. "I need to check the solar telemetry." "Sam, you need medical attention. Now, Daniel." Daniel helped her to a nearby terminal. Carter's fingers flew across the keyboard, pulling up data from satellites monitoring the sun. What she saw made her blood run cold. Solar output was increasing, not dramatically, just 1.8%, but the trend line was clear. The quantum frequency weapon had worked exactly as the Asgard core specified. It killed replicators across quantum realities, but it also destabilized both suns. "Oh no," Carter breathed. No, Sam, what is it?" Daniel asked. "The sun," Carter said, her voice breaking. "The weapon affected both timelines, killed replicators on 2370 Earth and 2002 Earth simultaneously. But Daniel, it also triggered quantum cascade reactions in both suns. Our sun is destabilizing too." "How long?" Daniel demanded. Carter ran calculations, her scientific mind working despite exhaustion. "The degradation is slower in our timeline than in 2370. They have 48 hours before their sun kills Earth. We have 10 years. Maybe 12 if we're lucky. But Daniel, 10 years isn't enough. We can't evacuate 6 billion people through the Stargate network in 10 years. "We'll find a way," Daniel said. though his voice carried doubt. We always do. Sam, right now you need to focus on recovering. Let the scientists worry about the sun. But Carter couldn't stop calculating. 6 billion people. Approximately 200 million per year to evacuate. The Stargate network could transport maybe 50,000 people per day if they ran continuously. That was 18.25 million people per year. Over 10 years, 18 out of 6 billion. They could save 3%. Let the other 97% die when the sun made Earth uninhabitable. We can't save everyone, Carter said, the realization hitting her like a physical blow. Daniel, the math doesn't work. Even with 10 years, even with the Stargate network, we're going to lose billions of people. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then we save as many as we can. And we make sure their sacrifice means something. In the medical bay, Colonel Jack O'Neill lay unconscious, his brain struggling to recover from neural trauma that should have killed him. The ancient weapon had channeled through his mind, using his consciousness as a bridge between human technology and ancient systems. He'd survived, barely, but the doctors didn't know when or if he'd wake up. General Hammond arrived at the outpost 3 hours later via helicopter, surveying the aftermath of the battle that had saved Earth. The Antarctic defensive perimeter was littered with deactivated replicators, thousands of mechanical organisms that had simply stopped mid-attack when the quantum frequency hit. Major Carter, Hammond said, finding Sam in the outpost's control room. Report. Sir. Carter stood, saluting despite exhaustion. The quantum frequency weapon fired successfully at 40:37 hours local time. All replicator contacts on Earth have ceased function. Estimated casualties from the Replicator war, 200 million globally. Major cities including Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, and Atlanta suffered catastrophic damage. Infrastructure across North America is severely compromised. And Colonel O'Neill? Hammond asked. In medical coma, sir. The ancient chair's neural feedback caused significant brain trauma. The doctors are doing everything they can, but Carter's voice broke. Sir, he might not wake up. Hammond placed a hand on her shoulder. Jack's tough. He's survived worse. What about the long-term situation? You mentioned solar instability in your initial report. Carter pulled up the solar telemetry. Yes, sir. The quantum weapon destabilized our sun. We have approximately 10 years before solar radiation makes Earth uninhabitable. After that, we'll need to evacuate the entire population through the Stargate network. 10 years, Hammond repeated. That's more than the Federation's 48 hours at least. Can we evacuate 6 billion people in 10 years? No, sir, Carter admitted. Not with current Stargate capacity. We'd need to expand the network significantly. Find dozens of new habitable worlds. Establish colony infrastructure. Coordinate with alien civilizations for settlement rights. It's possible, but General, we're going to lose billions of people. The math just doesn't support complete evacuation. Hammond was silent, processing the reality that Earth had been saved only to be doomed. Then we start immediately. Major, I'm placing you in charge of the Stargate evacuation project. You'll have unlimited resources, complete authority, and direct access to the President. Your mission: save as many people as possible over the next 10 years. Yes, sir, Carter said. But General, there's something else. I need to re-establish contact with Captain Picard on 2370 Earth. They're facing the same crisis, but with a much shorter timeline. If we can coordinate our efforts, share gate addresses, provide them access to our Stargate network. Do it, Hammond ordered. Major, 2 versions of Earth are dying. If we work together, maybe we can save more people than either timeline could alone. Make contact with the Federation. Tell them we're here to help. USS Enterprise D, Earth orbit. 38 hours until solar lethality. Captain Picard stood on the bridge, watching Earth rotate beneath them for what might be the last time. The planet looked peaceful. Blue oceans, white clouds, green continents. 9 billion people down there had no idea they had 38 hours left. Captain, I have re-established contact with Major Carter on 2002 Earth, Data announced. Subspace interference has cleared sufficiently for communication. On speakers, Picard ordered. Carter's voice came through, stronger than before. Captain Picard, this is Major Carter. I'm transmitting complete Stargate network coordinates over 10,000 habitable planet addresses. Sir, I understand your timeline is critical. You have 48 hours for evacuation. We want to help. Hope flared in Picard's chest. Major Carter, we can evacuate perhaps 50 million people using conventional transport. But with Stargate technology, you could save billions. Carter finished. Captain, here's what I'm proposing. We establish Stargate connections between our timelines. You send refugees through gates to worlds in our network. We provide guides, colony infrastructure, survival resources. It's not perfect, but it gives your people a chance. How do we access your Stargate network from 200 in 370? Picard asked. We don't have gate technology. You do, sir, Carter replied. According to our records, Starfleet discovered an ancient gate on Earth in 2067. It's currently in storage at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. You'll need to retrieve it, power it using your ship's warp core, and dial the addresses I'm transmitting. Data pulled up the historical records. Captain, Major Carter is correct. A ring-shaped artifact was discovered in Egypt in 1928, stored in various locations throughout the 20th and 21st centuries, and eventually acquired by the Smithsonian. Federation archaeologists classified it as artifact of unknown origin and placed it in deep storage. Retrieve it, Picard ordered. Immediately, beam it directly to the Enterprise's cargo bay. Geordi, can we power a Stargate using our warp core? Geordi's voice came over the comm. According to the specs Major Carter is transmitting, yeah, it's possible. A Stargate requires massive energy to create a stable wormhole, about 1019 joules. Our warp core can generate that, but it'll drain our reserves completely. Captain, once we power up the gate, we won't have enough energy left for warp drive. We don't need warp drive, Picard said. We need evacuation capability. Do it. Over the next 6 hours, the Enterprise became the hub of the most desperate evacuation in human history. The Stargate, a ring of ancient naquadah inscribed with symbols that predated human civilization, was installed in Cargo Bay 2 and powered using the Enterprise's warp core. The first test connection, P3X774, a habitable world in the Milky Way galaxy, accessed through 202 Earth's gate network. The wormhole engaged. The event horizon rippled, and for the first time, Federation citizens walked through a Stargate to another world. It works, Riker breathed, watching refugees step through the shimmering portal. We can actually evacuate people through this. Data pulled up calculations. Commander, assuming continuous operation, we can transport approximately 100 people per minute through the Stargate. Over 38 hours, that yields 200. Not enough, Picard said. We need more gates. Major Carter, how many Stargates exist in our solar system? Just one on Earth that we know of in your timeline, Captain, Carter replied. However, you could manufacture more using replicator technology. The gate's composition is naquadah, a heavy element that your replicators might be able to synthesize. Data? Picard asked. Theoretically possible. Data confirmed. However, manufacturing a complete Stargate would require significant time and resources. I estimate 18 hours to produce one functional gate. We don't have 18 hours to spare, Riker pointed out. Captain, maybe we focus on maximizing throughput through the single gate we have. But Picard was already thinking bigger. What if we don't manufacture gates? What if we use transporters? Beam people from Earth directly to colony worlds. Bypass ships entirely. Transporter range is insufficient, Data replied. Maximum range 40,000 kilometers. Nearest habitable colony 40. Then we create relay stations, Picard said. Position ships throughout space, each one extending transporter range by 40,000 kilometers. Create a chain from Earth to Alpha Centauri. People beam ship to ship until they reach the colony. Data ran calculations. Captain, that would require 316 ships positioned at precise intervals. We have 43 functional vessels remaining after the battle with replicators. The mathematics kept failing them. Captain Troy said quietly, we need to make a decision. We can't save everyone. We don't have the resources, the time, or the technology. We need to decide who gets evacuated and who stays. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. No, Picard said firmly. I refuse to choose. We save everyone or we die trying. Sir, Worf interjected. The counselor is correct. We must establish priorities. Children first. then medical personnel, engineers, scientists, people with skills necessary to rebuild civilization. Then what? Picard challenged. Then artists? Teachers? Elderly? Do we decide someone's mother is less valuable than someone's child? Do we tell a family that one member gets to live while the others die? Yes, Worf said bluntly. Because that is command. That is the burden of leadership. Captain, you cannot save everyone, but you can save some. And saving some is better than saving none. Picard wanted to argue, wanted to find a moral justification for selective evacuation, but Worf was right. They were out of good options. Computer, Picard said, his voice heavy, establish evacuation priorities. Protocol Alpha 7. Children under 18. Priority 1. Medical and emergency personnel, Priority 2. Engineers and scientists, Priority 3. Everyone else, Priority 4. Families may stay together at the cost of individual priority ranking. The computer acknowledged. The evacuation protocols were set, and somewhere on Earth, 9 billion people would soon discover that 99% of them had been classified as Priority 4, expendable. Captain, incoming transmission from Earth, Data announced. President of the United Earth Government. The view screen showed President Sarah Winters, 62 years old, elected 3 years ago, now facing the end of human civilization on Earth. Captain Picard, I've been informed of the evacuation protocols. I'm supposed to give a speech. Tell Earth's population that we're evacuating, that most of them won't make it out. How do I tell 9 billion people they're going to die? Picard had no answer. How do you explain that mathematics, physics, and time had conspired to doom humanity's homeworld? How do you ask people to accept death with dignity? You tell them the truth, Picard finally said. You tell them that the replicators threatened all of humanity, that we made a choice, save our species, or save our planet. We chose our species. Some will die so that others can live. It's not fair. It's not just, but it's the only option that doesn't end in extinction. President Winters nodded slowly. I'll make the announcement in 1 hour. God help us all. The transmission ended. Captain, Data said, I have updated evacuation projections incorporating the Stargate network and Major Carter's colony worlds. Estimated evacuation capacity over 38 hours, 450 million. Out of 9 billion, they'd increased their capacity 9-fold. It still wasn't enough. We keep working, Picard said. Every ship, every transporter, every Stargate, we use it all. We don't stop until either everyone is evacuated or the sun kills us. Understood. His crew nodded, and across Earth, President Winters appeared on every view screen, every holo screen, every communication device, to deliver the message that would haunt humanity forever. Citizens of Earth, this is not the speech I wanted to give. This is not the future we chose. But it is the reality we face. 48 hours ago, we defeated the Replicators, a threat that would have consumed all human life. The cost of that victory was our sun. Earth is dying. We have 36 hours to evacuate as many people as possible. But I must be honest, we cannot save everyone. Picard watched the broadcast, seeing the moment humanity realized its homeworld was doomed. Some panicked, some rioted, but most simply accepted it with the quiet dignity that had defined humanity since the first humans looked up at stars and dreamed. They'd survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and extinction events. They'd reached beyond their planet to touch the stars. And now, facing the loss of Earth itself, they faced it together. Captain, Data said, we have 36 hours remaining. All evacuation systems are operational. Where do we begin? Picard looked at Earth. Beautiful, blue, We begin by saving everyone we can, Picard said. And we don't stop until the sun forces us to. The evacuation began. SGC Medical Facility, Peterson Air Force Base, 72 hours after weapon discharge. Colonel Jack O'Neill woke up screaming, not from pain, from memory. The ancient chair's neural feedback had burned itself into his consciousness. Equations and languages that didn't exist. Visions of quantum realities folding and unfolding. The sensation of firing a weapon through his own mind that killed trillions of mechanical organisms across 2 timelines. Easy, Jack, a familiar voice said. Sam Carter, sitting beside his hospital bed, exhaustion evident in every line of her face. You're okay. You're safe. The weapon worked. The replicators are dead. Jack's vision focused. He was in a medical facility, Peterson Air Force Base, based on the insignia on the walls. His head felt like someone had used it for target practice, and his body ached with the deep exhaustion that came from pushing beyond human limits. How long was I out? Jack asked, his voice hoarse. 3 days, Carter replied. You've been in a medically induced coma while your brain recovered from the neural trauma. Jack, you're lucky to be alive. The feedback from the ancient chair should have killed you. Wouldn't be the first time I survived something I shouldn't have, Jack muttered. Then, more seriously, the replicators, dead. Every single one. The quantum frequency worked perfectly. We're reading 0 replicator contacts on Earth or anywhere in the solar system. Sir, Jack wanted to feel relief, but something in Carter's expression told him the victory had come at a cost beyond what they'd anticipated.
What's the bad news, Carter? Because I can see it on your face.
Carter pulled up a data pad showing solar telemetry. The weapon destabilized our sun. We knew it would. Thor warned us. But sir, we have 10 years, maybe 12. After that, Earth becomes uninhabitable. We need to evacuate 6 billion people through the Stargate network. 10 years, Jack repeated. That's better than the 48 hours the Federation got. Can we evacuate everyone? Carter's silence was answer enough. How many? Jack demanded. Using current Stargate capacity, projecting continuous operation over 10 years with maximum efficiency, we can evacuate approximately 180 million people out of 6 billion. Sir, we're going to lose 97% of Earth's population. The number hit Jack like a physical blow. 5.8 billion people. Dead. Not from replicators but from the sun that had given Earth life for billions of years. There's gotta be a way, Jack said, trying to sit up despite his body's protests. Ancient technology, Asgard knowledge, something. We're exploring every option, Carter assured him. I've been in contact with Captain Picard's timeline. They faced the same crisis with a much shorter time frame, only 48 hours to evacuate 9 billion people. They managed to save about 450 million using a combination of Federation ships and our Stargate network. But Jack, even with their technology and our resources, we couldn't save everyone. 450 million out of 9 billion, Jack calculated. That's 5%. They lost 95% of their population. Yes, sir. And their sun went supernova 36 hours after the weapon fired. Saul's system is completely destroyed. Earth, Mars, Luna, all gone. The Federation evacuated to Vulcan and other colony worlds. They're rebuilding, but, sir, they lost their homeworld completely. Jack processed that. In another timeline, 38 years in the future, Earth no longer existed. The planet where humanity evolved, where every human civilization had built and dreamed and died, vaporized by a star that humanity had weaponized to save themselves. And our Earth? Jack asked. 10 years. Based on current solar degradation rates, yes. The sun's output is increasing slowly, 1.8% so far. In 10 years, surface temperatures will exceed 60 degrees Celsius. The oceans will begin evaporating. The atmosphere will become toxic. Anyone still on Earth will die from heat exposure, dehydration, or atmospheric poisoning. Then we evacuate, Jack said firmly, swinging his legs off the hospital bed despite the doctor's protests. Carter, I want a full briefing in 1 hour. Every SG team, every scientist, every resource we have, we dedicate it to evacuation. We've got 10 years to save as many people as possible. Sir, you need to rest. I'll rest when Earth is empty. Jack interrupted. Right now, I've got 6 billion people who need new homes on new worlds. Let's get to work. SGC briefing room. 4 hours later, General Hammond stood at the head of the table, facing an assembly of Earth's best SG team leaders, scientists, military strategists, and representatives from every major government. The room was packed beyond capacity, standing room only, because everyone understood the stakes. Ladies and gentlemen, Hammond began. 3 days ago, we fired a weapon that killed the replicators and saved humanity from extinction. The cost was our sun. We have 10 years before Earth becomes uninhabitable. This briefing will outline our evacuation strategy for 6 billion people. He gestured to Sam Carter, who pulled up holographic displays showing the Stargate network. Major Carter has identified 247 habitable worlds accessible through the Stargate, Hammond continued. These worlds range from uninhabited to pre-industrial civilizations. Our plan is to establish colonies on all 2047 worlds, relocating approximately 25 million people per world over the next 10 years. That's 617.5 billion people, Daniel Jackson pointed out. More than Earth's current population. You're assuming we can evacuate everyone. Assuming optimal conditions, yes, Carter confirmed. However, reality will be messier. Some worlds will reject colonization. Some colonies will fail due to environmental factors. Some gates will malfunction. Our realistic projection is 180 million successfully evacuated. That leaves 5.8 billion people who won't make it. The room went silent. So we're choosing who lives and who dies, a U.S. senator said bluntly. How do we make that choice? We don't, Jack O'Neill said, standing despite his injuries. We make the Stargate network available to everyone. First come, first served. You want off Earth? You step through a gate. We provide coordinates. We provide guides. We provide survival resources. But we don't choose. People choose for themselves. That's chaos, the senator protested. Without organization, without priorities. It's fair, Jack interrupted. Senator, there's no moral way to choose who lives and who dies. Any priority system we create, age, skills, wealth, health, it's all arbitrary. So we make it simple. Everyone has equal access to evacuation. Whether they use it is up to them. Colonel O'Neill is correct, Hammond agreed. We will operate a lottery system. Every human on Earth enters. Names are drawn randomly. Selected individuals receive gate coordinates and transport to the nearest Stargate. We process 50,000 people per day. Over 10 years, that's 100. And the other 5.8 billion, the senator asked. Hammond's expression was grim. They stay on Earth, and when the sun makes the planet uninhabitable, they die. That's the reality we face. There's another option, Daniel Jackson said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. What if we don't evacuate? What if we fix the sun? Daniel, Carter said gently. We've run every simulation. The quantum cascade is irreversible. We can't repair the damage. Not with current technology, Daniel agreed. But the ancients, they manipulated stellar phenomena. They built stargates that create wormholes through space-time. Sam, if we could find ancient technology that affects stars, maybe we could stabilize Saul. That's a long shot, Jack pointed out, and we don't have time for long shots. Daniel, I appreciate the optimism, but we need to focus on evacuation. What if both are possible? Tiok suggested. We pursue evacuation while simultaneously researching ancient stellar technology. If we succeed in stabilizing the sun, we save everyone. If we fail, we have still evacuated millions. Hammond considered it. I'm open to parallel approaches. Dr. Jackson, you'll lead a research team investigating ancient stellar manipulation technology. Major Carter, you continue coordinating evacuation through the Stargate network. Colonel O'Neill, you'll manage the overall operation. We have 10 years. Let's use them wisely. The briefing continued for another 3 hours, establishing protocols, assigning responsibilities, and facing the uncomfortable truth that Earth's days were numbered. As the room cleared, Jack found himself standing alone, looking out the window at the sky. Saul looked normal, a yellow star, warm and familiar, but sensors told the truth. It was dying, and taking Earth with it. Jack, Daniel said, joining him at the window, do you think we'll find a way to fix the sun? Honestly, no, Jack admitted. I think we'll evacuate a couple 100 million people, and the rest will die when Earth becomes uninhabitable. But Daniel, we saved the species. That's what matters. Even if it means losing our planet, even then, because planets are just rocks orbiting stars. People are what make those rocks meaningful. We'll find new planets, build new homes, and maybe 1,000 years from now, humans will look back at Earth as the place we came from, not the place we died. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then, 5 years from now, I want to visit Earth. One last time before the evacuations end. Walk on the same ground where human civilization began. Say goodbye properly. I'll go with you, Jack said. We'll have a beer on the National Mall, watch the sunset, and toast to the planet that gave us everything. It was a promise they'd both keep. But first they had 6 billion people to save. Federation transport ship Destiny, 38 hours after weapon discharge. Captain Jean-Luc Picard stood on the bridge of the transport vessel Destiny, watching through the view screen as Saul expanded into a red giant. The sun that had warmed Earth for 4.5 billion years was dying, swelling, brightening, consuming the inner planets in nuclear fire. Earth was already gone. Captain, Commander Data reported from the op station, his android voice carrying a weight that shouldn't have been possible for synthetic beings. I have final evacuation numbers. Over the 48-hour window, we successfully evacuated 402 million people from Earth and the Sol system. Approximately 8.7 billion remained on the planet when the sun's radiation reached lethal levels. 402 million saved. 8.7 billion dead. The mathematics of genocide written in solar physics and quantum mechanics. Where are the survivors? Picard asked quietly. Distributed across 47 colony worlds, Data replied. Primary destinations include Vulcan, Alpha Centauri 4, Andoria, Beta Sade, and various Stargate network worlds provided by Major Carter's 2002 timeline. Additionally, 27 million are currently in transit aboard evacuation vessels. And the Sol system? Data pulled up sensor readings. The view screen showed what remained. Mercury, vaporized. Venus, vaporized. Earth atmosphere burned away. Oceans boiled into space, surface temperature exceeding 800 degrees Celsius. Mars barely clinging to existence as Sol's outer layers reached toward it. Complete solar system sterilization will occur in approximately 6 hours, Data said. The sun will stabilize as a red giant for several thousand years before collapsing into a white dwarf. Captain, Sol system is now uninhabitable. Earth is gone. Picard felt something break inside him. Not dramatically, just a quiet fracture in his soul, the kind that would never fully heal. Earth, the planet where he'd been born in France, where he'd walked vineyards as a child, where humanity had first looked up at stars and dreamed, erased by the very species it had given birth to. Set course for Vulcan, Picard ordered. Maximum warp. It's time to begin rebuilding. Vulcan, Federation emergency capital. 3 days after Sol's destruction. The Federation Council convened in an emergency session within Vulcan's Hall of Ancient Thought, a building that predated human spaceflight by millennia. 47 worlds sent representatives. The chamber was packed beyond capacity. President Sarah Winters stood before the assembled delegates, aged a decade in the 3 days since Earth's death. The United Federation of Planets faces an existential crisis, she began, her voice steady despite everything. Earth, the founding world of our Federation, is destroyed. She paused, letting the weight settle. But we survive, and survival is victory. Sarek, Vulcan's ambassador and one of the Federation's most respected diplomats, stood. The Vulcan High Council has voted to offer Vulcan as the temporary Federation capital. We have space, resources, and infrastructure to accommodate Federation government operation. Additionally, Vulcan will accept 10 million human refugees for permanent settlement. Andoria offers housing for 5 million, the Andorian delegate announced. Betaste can accommodate 8 million, added the Betazoid representative. One by one, Federation worlds offered aid, not out of obligation, out of unity. The Federation had lost its heart, but its ideals remained. Captain Picard, President Winters said, turning to where Picard sat among Starfleet representatives, you coordinated the evacuation that saved 40 months 50 million lives. The Federation owes you a debt that can never be repaid. On behalf of Earth's survivors, thank you. The chamber erupted in applause, a moment of acknowledgement for the impossible task Picard had undertaken. But Picard felt no pride. Only the weight of 8.7 billion dead. When the applause died, Picard stood. Madam President, members of the Council, we saved 5% of Earth's population. We lost 95%. That is not victory. That is failure. Mathematical failure. But failure nonetheless. We made impossible choices. The chamber was silent, but they didn't die for nothing, Picard continued. They died so that humanity would survive. So that Earth's legacy, not Earth the planet, but Earth the idea, would continue. We honor them not by mourning, but by ensuring that every colony, every ship, Every generation remembers where we came from. Earth is gone, but Earth's children live on. The Federation was founded on Earth, but the Federation was never just Earth. It was an idea that different species, different cultures, different worlds could unite for the common good. That idea didn't die with Saul. It lives here, in this chamber, in every refugee we shelter, in every child we save. Earth is destroyed, but the Federation endures. President Winters nodded slowly. Captain Picard is correct. We rebuild. The Federation Council will remain on Vulcan until a permanent capital is established. All member worlds are requested to contribute resources for refugee resettlement, and we begin work immediately on the Earth Memorial, a monument to honor the 8.7 billion who didn't survive. Where will the memorial be located? Asked the Tellarite ambassador. Vulcan has offered land, Sarek replied. A site overlooking the Forge, the desert that shaped Vulcan philosophy. We will build a monument there, inscribed with every name of every person lost when Earth died, 8.7 billion names, so that no one is forgotten. The Council voted unanimously. The Earth Memorial would be built. USS Enterprise deorbiting Vulcan 1 week after Saul's destruction. Commander Data found Captain Picard in the Enterprise's observation lounge, staring out at Vulcan's red surface. Picard had barely slept in a week, coordinating refugee resettlement, managing Starfleet's reorganization, dealing with the psychological aftermath of losing Earth. Captain, Data said quietly, you asked me to compile casualty reports. I have completed the analysis. Picard didn't turn from the window. Tell me. Total human casualties from the Replicator War, 8.9 billion. This includes 200 million killed during the initial Replicator assault, and 8.7 billion who remained on Earth when solar radiation became lethal. Starfleet casualties, 47,000. Ships lost 78 vessels, including the USS Voyager, USS Saratoga, and USS Challenger. And the survivors, 42 million humans evacuated successfully. Current distribution: Vulcan hosts 89 million, Alpha Centauri 73 million, various Stargate network worlds 210 million, other Federation colonies 100 million. Psychological services report widespread trauma, grief, and survivors' guilt. Suicide rates have increased 340%. Picard closed his eyes. They survived Earth's death only to die from guilt. That's unacceptable. I have flagged this concern with Starfleet Medical, Data replied. Counselor Troy is establishing support networks across all refugee sites. However, Captain, there is another matter. You have been offered the position of Federation Ambassador at Large. The Council requests you accept. I'm a starship captain, not a diplomat. You are the man who saved 402 million lives, Data corrected. The Council believes your experience qualifies you to represent the Federation during reconstruction. Additionally, sir, I must note that you have not taken personal time to grieve Earth's loss. As your friend, I am concerned. Picard finally turned from the window, and Data saw the exhaustion in his eyes, not physical tiredness, but the soul-deep weariness of a man who'd carried impossible burdens. Data, I stood on the bridge of this ship, and chose who lived and who died. I prioritized children over adults, utility over art, logic over humanity. I made the right decisions by every metric that matters, and 8.7 billion people died anyway. How do I grieve that? How do I process the weight of those choices? By continuing to serve, Data replied simply. Captain, you made impossible choices because someone had to. You saved 402 million because you refused to surrender to mathematics. That is why the Council wants you as ambassador. Not because you succeeded, but because you tried when success was impossible. Picard was quiet for a long moment. Then, I'll accept the position. But Data, I need you to continue something for me. Research replicator countermeasures. Ensure this never happens again. If there are more replicators out there in other galaxies, other quantum realities, humanity needs to be prepared. I will dedicate my existence to that task, Data promised. Captain, there is one more thing. A message arrived via ancient communication stones from Major Carter on 2002 Earth. She reports their evacuation efforts are proceeding. Shall I display it? Yes. Data pulled up the message. Captain Picard, it's been 1 week since we fired the weapons. Our Earth is still intact, though the sun continues destabilizing. We have 10 years for evacuation. I'm sorry about your Earth's destruction. We're using your sacrifice as a warning, showing our population what happens if we don't evacuate. Your loss is saving millions of lives here. Thank you for coordinating the Stargate network access. We've evacuated 12 million people so far through gates you helped us activate. Colonel O'Neill woke up from his coma 3 days ago. He asked me to tell you. The Federation drinks on the house when this is over. We'll contact you again in 1 year with progress updates. Stay strong, Captain. Carter out. Picard allowed himself a small smile. O'Neill's irreverent humor across 368 years and the death of a planet. Some things apparently were constant.
Data.
Send a response. Tell Major Carter we'll hold her to that drink. And tell her, Picard paused. Tell her Earth survivors are thinking of Earth's future survivors. We're in this together, both timelines, both humanities. We endure. Aye, Captain. Stargate Command, Peterson Air Force Base. 6 months after weapon discharge. Major Samantha Carter stood before a holographic display showing Earth's evacuation progress. 6 months into a 10-year timeline, the numbers were both encouraging and devastating. Current evacuation status. Carter reported to the assembled Joint Chiefs and President. 12.4 million people relocated through the Stargate network. Primary destinations. P3X77-4, P2X33-8, P4C970 and 43 other habitable worlds. Evacuation rate, 68,000 people per day. At that rate, President Martinez said, how many can we evacuate over 10 years? 2048.2 million. Carter replied, out of 6 billion. That's 4%, sir. 96% of Earth's population will still be here when the sun makes the planet uninhabitable. The room fell silent. Can we increase the evacuation rate? Asked General Hammond. We're limited by Stargate capacity, Carter explained. Each gate activation can transport approximately 40 people per minute. We can only maintain a stable wormhole for 38 minutes before the gate needs to recharge. That gives us 1,520 people per gate activation. We're running 8 gates now recovered from various archaeological sites worldwide, which gives us 12,160 people per activation. We run activations every 2 hours around the clock. 8 gates, the president repeated. Can we build more? We're trying, Carter said. Gate construction requires naquadah, a heavy element that's rare on Earth. We're mining it off-world, but production is slow. We might build 2 more gates in the next year. That increases our capacity to maybe 300 million over 10 years. Still leaves 5. Then we need another solution, Colonel Jack O'Neill said, his voice still carrying a slight rasp from his injuries. He'd been released from medical care 2 months ago, but still suffered headaches from the ancient chair's neural trauma. Carter, what about the Federation's technology? They had transporters, replicators, all kinds of tech. Can we use any of it? Their timeline is 368 years ahead of us, Carter reminded him. We don't have the industrial base to build Federation technology. We'd need decades to reverse engineer even basic replicator systems. What about ancient technology? Daniel Jackson suggested. The ancients built stargates. They must have built other things. Ships, weapons, transporters. If we could find an ancient facility with intact technology. We're searching, Carter said. SG teams are exploring every ancient reference we can find. But Daniel, the ancients left this galaxy millions of years ago. Most of their technology is archaeological ruins, not functional equipment. Then we expand our search, O'Neill decided. Every SG team, every mission priority 1 is finding technology that increases evacuation capacity. We've got 9.5 years left. Let's use them. P3X77-4, Human Colony, 1 year after weapon discharge. Colonel Jack O'Neill stepped through the Stargate onto P3X77-4, one of the first worlds to receive Earth refugees. The planet was beautiful, Earth-like atmosphere, temperate climate, fertile soil. The natives, pre-industrial humans descended from ancient seed ships, had welcomed the refugees with cautious optimism. 1 year in, the colony was thriving. Colonel O'Neill, a young girl maybe 8 years old, ran up to him wearing rough spun clothing but smiling. Did you bring supplies from Earth? Sure did, kid, Jack replied, gesturing to the cargo pallets materializing through the gate. Food, medicine, tools, everything you need to build a new life here. Will Earth people keep coming? The girl asked. My teacher says the sun is dying, that everyone has to leave. Jack knelt down to her level. Yeah, everyone has to leave, but that's okay. This planet? It's your home now. You're gonna grow up here, build cities here, have kids of your own here. Earth is where you came from. P3X774 is where you belong. The girl nodded seriously. I'll remember Earth. I promise. Good, Jack said. Now go help unload those supplies. Adults talk boring politics stuff. The girl ran off, joining other refugees in unpacking the supply shipment. Jack stood, watching humans from Earth integrate with humans from P3X774. Two populations, separated by thousands of years of divergent evolution, now united by necessity. It's working, Daniel Jackson said, joining Jack at the gate. The colonies are stable, people are adapting. Some are, Jack corrected. I've seen the reports, Daniel. 20% of refugees can't handle the adjustment. They're dying from depression, suicide, or just giving up. We're saving bodies but losing souls. Then we provide support, Daniel said. Counselors, community programs, cultural integration initiatives. Jack, we're asking people to abandon their homeworld and start over on primitive planets. Of course there's trauma, but most are surviving. That's what matters. Jack watched the girl laughing with her new friends, children who'd never known Earth, who would only know it as a story told by parents and grandparents. In 2 generations, Earth would be mythology. In 4 generations, it would be forgotten. But humanity would survive. Have you heard from Captain Picard lately? Daniel asked. Carter got a message 2 weeks ago, Jack replied. The Federation is rebuilding on Vulcan. They've got 400 survivors spread across 50 worlds. They built a memorial, 8.7 billion names carved into stone. Picard retired from Starfleet, became an ambassador, says he's working on preventing future replicator threats. Sounds like he's handling it better than we are. Don't know about that, Jack said. Their Earth is gone, completely destroyed when their sun went supernova. Ours has 10 years. I'll take 10 years over immediate annihilation any day. Daniel was quiet. Then, Jack, do you think we'll stabilize the sun? Find ancient technology that reverses the damage? Honestly? No, Jack admitted. I think we'll evacuate 300 or 400 million people, and the rest will die when Earth becomes uninhabitable. But Daniel, we saved the species. Earth is just a planet. Humanity is what matters. You sound like Picard. Maybe we've both learned the same lesson. Planets die. People endure. And as long as people remember where they came from, Earth lives through them. Vulcan, Federation capital, 5 years after Earth's destruction. Captain, no, Ambassador, Jean-Luc Picard stood before the Earth Memorial, looking up at the vast wall of names. 8.7 billion individuals, each one inscribed in stone. The wall stretched for kilometers, a monument to loss that would stand for millennia. It's complete, Commander Data said, joining Picard at the memorial. The final name was added this morning. Every person who died when Earth fell, recorded for history. Picard found his own family's names, his brother Robert, his nephew René, his mother and father, dead not from the replicators, but from the sun that humanity had weaponized. Collateral damage in a war against mathematics. How are the survivors doing? Picard asked. Better than expected, Data replied. 5 years of rebuilding has stabilized most colonies. Birth rates are increasing. Economic integration is progressing. The Federation is adapting. However, psychological studies show that 78% of survivors experience survivor's guilt. 42% suffer from clinical depression. The trauma of losing Earth is generational, and the children born after Earth's destruction. Approximately 14 million children born in the past 5 years across Federation space, Data reported. They will never know Earth as anything but history. To them, Vulcan or Alpha Centauri will be home. Earth will be mythology. Picard nodded slowly. In 2 generations, Earth would be a story. In 4, it would be ancient history. Eventually, humanity would forget the planet that gave them birth. Remember it only through museums and memorials like this one. But that was survival. Adapting. Moving forward, Data. Picard said. I'm retiring from the ambassadorial post. 5 years is enough. I've helped rebuild. Now I want to go home. Where is home for you, Captain? France no longer exists. Earth is destroyed. Vulcan is beautiful but not mine. Picard paused. I think home is the Enterprise. Or whatever comes next. I'm requesting reassignment to Starfleet. They're building a new flagship, Enterprise E. I want to captain her. The Council will approve immediately, Data said. They've wanted you back in command for years. Captain, I have news. A message arrived this morning from Major Carter on 2002 Earth. She reports their evacuation has reached 5-year milestone. Shall I display it? Please. Data pulled up the holographic message. Carter appeared, 5 years older, wearing the insignia of a lieutenant colonel now. Behind her, Jack O'Neill, promoted to brigadier general, leaned against a wall. Captain Picard, 5 years since we fired the weapons. We've evacuated 187 million people through the Stargate network. We have 5 years remaining. The sun continues destabilizing, but we found something. Ancient technology on a planet called Dakara. A device that can manipulate stellar phenomena. We're attempting to use it to stabilize Saul. If it works, we save everyone. If it fails, we continue evacuation. Your Earth's destruction showed us the cost of failure. We're using the Federation's loss as motivation. Every refugee who gates to a new world is told, this is what happened to the other Earth. This is why we evacuate. Your sacrifice is saving millions here. General O'Neill wants to talk to you. I'm transferring communication. The display shifted. Jack O'Neill stepped forward, looking tired, but determined. Picard. It's been 5 years. We've both seen what losing Earth looks like. Your timeline lost everything in 48 hours. We've got 5 years left, and we're fighting to save what we can. I wanted to thank you. Your coordination on the Stargate network saved millions of my people. The gate addresses you provided, the refugee protocols you established, we're using all of it. The Federation built a memorial for 8.7 billion dead. We're building one too, for the 5 billion who won't evacuate in time. Because even with ancient technology, even with Stargates, we can't save everyone. But we try. And that's what makes us human. 5 years ago you said we'd share a drink when this was over. Well, it's not over. Won't be over for years. But Picard, I'm raising a glass anyway. To Earth, both Earths. To the planet that gave us life and the stars we fled to when it died. To humanity, stubborn, adaptable, too stupid to stay dead. O'Neill raised a glass, whiskey by the look of it. To Earth. May she rest in peace. And may we never forget where we came from. Picard felt something in his chest. Not quite hope, but something close. Across 68 years of quantum divergence, 2 versions of humanity had faced the same existential threat and survived through coordination, sacrifice, and sheer determination. Data, Picard said quietly. Replicate 2 glasses. Chateau Picard 24047. The last vintage before Earth died. Data complied, handing Picard a glass of deep red wine, the same vineyard his family had maintained for generations, preserved now only in replicator patterns. Picard raised his glass to the holographic image of O'Neill. 5 years and to humanity, Picard said. Across timelines. Across galaxies. We endure. On the holographic display, O'Neill nodded, raised his glass in return, and drank. 2 versions of humanity. One rebuilding on Vulcan after losing everything. One fighting to save what remained with 5 years left. United by a shared toast across quantum realities. Epilogue. 10 years after weapon discharge, Triage Federation space, the USS Enterprise E, newest flagship of Starfleet, patrolled the borders of Federation space. Captain Jean-Luc Picard commanded her, with Commander Data at his side, and a crew that had never known Earth except through history. The Federation had rebuilt. 1,470 million survivors had become 510 million through births. 50 colonies thrived. Vulcan remained the capital, though some advocated for a new Earth, a planet renamed to honor the lost homeworld. The Saul system was now a memorial site. The red giant that had been Saul burned steadily, its inner planets gone, a reminder of the cost of survival. Ships could visit but not settle. It was a grave, 8.7 billion dead, honored in silence. Picard stood on the Enterprise E bridge, older now, grayer, but still serving, still ensuring humanity remembered. Captain Data reported, incoming message via ancient communication stones. Source 2012 Earth Colonel Carter's timeline. On screen, Lieutenant Colonel Samantha Carter appeared, 10 years older, standing beside Brigadier General Jack O'Neill. Behind them, Earth hung in space, alive, evacuated but intact. Captain Picard.
It's been 10 years. We did it. We evacuated everyone. All 6 billion people. The ancient Dakara device worked. We stabilized the sun. Saul is no longer dying. Earth is saved.
Picard felt shock. Major Carter, you saved Earth. Your son is stable. Yes, sir. It took 10 years of continuous evacuation while our scientists modified ancient technology. We had to relocate 6 billion people through the Stargate network while simultaneously working on stellar stabilization. We lost 400 million who refused evacuation or died during the process. But Captain, we saved 5.6 billion. Earth is empty now. We relocated everyone as a precaution, but the planet is intact. The sun is stable. Your Earth showed us what failure looked like. We learned from your sacrifice. Every refugee we evacuated, we told them, the other Earth died. We're fighting to save ours. Your loss saved our world. O'Neill stepped forward. Picard, I know your Earth is gone. I know you lost 8.7 billion people, but I wanted you to know your sacrifice wasn't wasted. The Federation's destruction gave us the motivation to try the impossible, and we succeeded. We're naming a colony world after you. New Picard, in the P4X sector. A reminder that leadership isn't about winning, it's about trying when winning is impossible. Thank you, Captain, for everything. Picard felt something break and heal simultaneously in his chest. The Federation had lost Earth, but 202 Earth survived. One timeline sacrifice became another timeline salvation. Major Carter, General O'Neill, Picard said, his voice steady despite the emotion. The Federation honors your success. You saved what we couldn't. That's humanity at its finest. He raised a glass, the last of the Chateau Picard vintage, saved for this moment. To Earth, both Earths, one lost, one saved. To humanity across timelines, we endure, we adapt, we survive, and we never, ever stop fighting. Across 38 years and 2 quantum realities, 3 humans raised glasses in unity. The camera pulled back, showing both timelines. 2012 Earth, empty but alive, its sun stable. 6 billion humans scattered across 24/7 colony worlds but alive. 2380 Federation space. Earth destroyed, Saul a red giant, 8.7 billion dead but 510 million survivors rebuilding across 50 worlds. 2 versions of humanity. 2 outcomes. Both surviving. Both human. The end.